up and you say, "Hey, brother, I see that you're kind of beating the shit out of this dude who's way smaller than you." And I just wonder, what has anybody ever asked you what the problem is, and can we go fix it? And in the meantime, you put your hand on his shoulder and it's like, "Here, walk over here with me and just let's just chill." And let that guy get up, because you kind of put him on his ass. You put him on his ass. He's down there dead. And let's just talk about what it is we need here. Do you want his land? If he makes some concession of land to you, what is it that you want from him? Is it oil? Do you want him to stop doing something? Whatever it is. So then we broker to them and we say, Ukraine or Israel, Palestine or whatever. We say, okay, so you've got this endless fucking war that doesn't ever stop, and these guys constantly beat the shit out of you, and your neighbor beats the shit out of you. It's unfair because all he has to do is run out his front door and over to my front door and knock on the door, or bash it in, more likely, and just start hurting me and my wife and my family and all my kids. And honestly, the same is true of Russia. And I would posit to Russia that you're in a safe position right now because everybody's too scared to attack you. But what if I propose that I am not making some threat, but what if I propose that I really can't handle you hurting my friend like this anymore? And I don't know what to do with you, I would say that to Israel, Palestine as well. And so we obviously have reached like the end of the negotiation, and communication is broken down between all fronts. But we don't want to support you in your conflict with each other anymore. And you can't use our money on killing each other. And we're not going to give you any money anymore ever unless you basically seek peace with each other. And then we sanction both of them. And we say, nope, it's treason to send $1 to a Russian businessman. We just full-blown sanction them. And we say, okay, Russia, you've been the bully, so now we're going to act tough, and we're going to get in your fucking face like a principal who's actually going to lead the school, and say, we're not threatening you. We're just saying we can't stand by while you continue to kill our friend here. You must let him go, or you and I, we're donezo. Right? And they're gonna be like, okay, fine. They're gonna be like, okay, fine. But right there, you say, but I don't want that. And so now, will you sit at the table and will you figure out a peace treaty, and sit at the table, at the round table, and we'll work with you. We'll give you all our best diplomats and all of our best negotiators and stuff, and they will tell you what you need and what it is you want, as opposed to what it is you're trying to do by taking Ukraine. And then everybody's happy. And in return, when you guys promise that you're done fighting with each other, we will come in and we will stimulate both countries with the money that we would have spent. We bribe them, right? We say we're going to come in and we're going to stimulate both countries a lot more than we're stimulating you right now. We'll pay you for fucking peace, but we will not pay you for fucking war. How's that? You ever heard an American politician even mention something like this? Fuck no, because they're the enemy. They don't care. They like the war. But I don't. And I like the people, and I love the people, and I don't want them hurt. And so I say that, and I love Ukraine, and I love Russia, and I love Palestine, and I love fucking Israel. I don't care. The problem is, I will not pay you to go to war anymore. I will only pay you for peace. I will only ever help you or deal with you. I'm going to sanction you until you do have peace. We're always pressuring each other, like we're going to fight each other if you don't stop fighting. But actually, I think it has to be more like, I will pay you a lot of money to stop. I will pay you. How about this? If you broker a treaty between Russia and Ukraine, we'll give each country $2 billion. And if you violate the fucking treaty, you have war with us, right? We do act like the world police. And we incentivize both of them to fucking chill. I mean, Ukraine wants to stop. We incentivize Russia. We say, we'll pay you to fucking stop, or something like that. If you prove in 2 years' time that you've done nothing in the 2 years, but broker peace, we'll give you the resources that you want from Ukraine. We have them. And you broker peace. You try to get them to stop killing each other. You bribe them. You do whatever the fuck you have to do. But you don't bribe so they can continue to kill each other. You bribe for peace. You don't sue for war. You bribe for peace.
Swing state.
You don't bribe for war. You bribe for peace. Every time some fucking conflict starts, where we're like, oh, our homie's getting hurt, So then we're just like, okay, here's money so you can repair your problems and fix it. But I mean, honestly, it's more like, okay, no more money for anybody until you guys fix it. We're going to sanction anybody involved. And we start having more of a nope, we're stuck on the planet with each other. Wars aren't cool. The entire planet is a demilitarized zone. The entire planet needs to be a demilitarized zone, and we can fight each other once we're up in the stars. And I actually kind of promote it. I promote Star Wars, honestly, but I don't promote planetary wars. Honestly, I really don't. I think Star Wars are absolutely fine. Planetary wars, I don't know about that. That, like, there's nowhere to go. If somebody drops bombs, all that smoke, we have to inhale it, you know? All that smoke and burning fumes and desecrated buildings and shit, all that stuff, we have to breathe it in. Planetary wars are unacceptable. That's not okay for us to do. I don't care if it's for something or what. It doesn't matter if it's for a good reason. I don't care. It doesn't matter if it's for World War II to fucking stop the Holocaust. I have sympathy for what happened in the Holocaust. I really do. I'm not heartless. But honestly, I think the world would have been a lot better place if we had just stayed the fuck out of it. I really do. I still think that. And dropping that bomb without the public's, permission is the worst betrayal that mankind's ever fucking experienced. And the bomb itself was actually the worst betrayal, but that's what I just said. That bomb, you dropping those bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima without the public's permission is like the worst debacle in the human fucking race. And I see a lack of leadership all the goddamn time. So now I want to bribe for peace. You guys want to bribe them so they can continue to kill each other. I want to bribe for peace. I don't think I want to send another dollar until they promise me a peace treaty. And if they do, we'll send a lot of dollars, And maybe with some recovery and a little bit of TLC and love and care in this world, we'll fucking help both sides to fucking like fucking thrive to the point where they get back on their feet and they're better and they're not like crazy and angry at each other and stuff, and they can see with eyes unclouded by hate,
Also, lastly,
or at least hopefully their fucking grandkids can see with eyes unclouded by hate.
The quote, community of American gamers, users of Reddit and image boards such as 4chan, and the documents describing this cohort as the quote, backbone of right-wing trends in the US segment of the internet. And then besides that, I should also...
Am I saying bribe our worst enemies? No, I'm saying I'll bribe them to stop. Yeah, I'll bribe them to stop. It's cheaper for the fucking world to send post-war relief than it is to send current war aid. You understand? Post-war relief is cheaper, it's more effective, it has more waves of economic stimulus for the entire world. Even if Russia and Ukraine are up off their knees and not killing each other, it's good for the entire goddamn world. And that's why we stepped to them saying, look, you got to broker a peace treaty with us. We like to fucking help them to continue to kill each other. I've never understood this foul fucking support that we give. Like, even to, I'm very sympathetic to the Jews and the Holocaust and stuff, but we didn't live there. So many people fucking died. Like, I'm glad that we did what we did, but I think the amount of lives that it cost to go care was basically as bad as what was happening. The amount of money and time to go jump in a war and pay millions of lives and use up all of our metal and all of our money and all of our food and all of our money and all of our rations and all of our time and all of our effort and all of our best minds are wasted by madness, and it's just crazy. And like, imagine what would happen if we just took all that time, effort, and money and just tried to make peace happen, If we, instead of all those tanks and all those bombs and all those guns, I mean, this is what Gandhi was saying. It's true. It's sort of like it takes so much more time and effort to sock somebody than it does to hug them. You got to brace. You got to pull back. You have to like brace your fucking fists and get ready to maybe break the bones in your fucking hand, which often does happen. And you're like bracing, and then you have to really put your whole fucking force into it if you really want to punch somebody, right? Or you can just go hug. just hug. That's all. Just hug. It's not this, let pull back. Like, it's not this, it's much easier to smile It's like 7 muscles to smile, but it's like 67 muscles to frown. and this truth is also true of war. It's like 6 times as much energy to be in war as it does peace. It's like 6 times as much resources. So it's just cheaper to try to entice them for peace than it is to like fucking help them, pay them money so they can continue their fucking war. It's just easier and cheaper, and it's more generous, and they'll like you more. And if you say, if you guys stop, we'll help you a lot more than we are right now. If you guys stop, we'll help you a lot more. We're here. We see that you guys are each other's throat and that you both need help and you both need friends. So we're here to be like, yo, I'm here to be both your guys' friends. And you can be jealous about our friendship and stuff, but I'm here to take both you guys by the shoulder and be like, you got to stop this, buddies. You got to stop it, buddies. You know? I'm here to take you by the shoulder, both of you, and be like, I'll be both of your fucking friends, and if you promise to fucking stop this, I'll make sure that whatever fucking problem that caused you to be here is solved. If it's poverty, we'll help you with it. If it's, whatever it is. But understand, you must stop now. We can't. It's the same thing with Israel, Palestine. I understand that it's a blood debt that can never be repaid and it can never end. I understand that. I'm not stupid. But if you broker peace, we'll help you solve your poverty. The same aid that we send for war. We'll double it, but we'll help you with rebuilding and race relations and mental health and all types of stuff. It will give you double the aid that we did while you were at war for you to quit and see maybe if they take the case and you say, okay, you guys can't seem to find peace. Would you guys be willing to look over 20 or so proposals by the world's best goddamn the world's best diplomats. We'll have the 20 of the world's best diplomats come up with 20 very different solutions, and we'll offer all of them to you. And if you broker peace with us, we will make sure that neither one of you starve to death and need to be each other's throats. And if you need the promised land, we'll fix it. I propose that we bring the Jews to Wyoming or something. Give them Wyoming. It's an empty land. Just give it to them. All the resources in it. Something like that. I'm dead serious. We have to do something, and we will broker peace if we have to. And if we have to move or whatever, I guess we'll have to. I don't know. But I feel like right now we broker for war. I want to broker for peace. We constantly broker for war. This thing he's talking about, we don't want to send any more money to Israel Palestine because they kill each other with it. Yeah, but honestly, I do. I want to send aid to my homies who are in trouble. They're both my homies. I want to send aid to both homies while they're in trouble, and I have this feeling that if we were to address the problems, maybe they wouldn't be at each other's throats so much. If they were happier people, they wouldn't be at each other's throats so much. It's the same thing in America. If you guys hadn't stole all the money, there wouldn't be so much poverty, and nobody would be shooting up schools or all the nasty things that we hear about every single fucking day. And so I want to talk about suing for peace and proposing peace and paying them to not hurt each other, not as opposed to paying them to hurt each other. Is it simple enough?
Say the document, along with the others obtained and released by the DOJ, explicitly talks about securing Russia's preferred outcome in the election. Because there, while the party and the candidate names are redacted in the versions we have, it's pretty clear from the context clues
Trump.
that this means Trump and the Republicans, which absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, he kibbles with Russia, and I guess the internet is finally realizing it. But yeah, that guy that you hate, Russia and China, that's Trump's best friend. He kibbles with them. He got the election with it. He was impeached for it.
We've heard from intelligence officials in the past, and just based on comments Trump has made in the past.
If we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia.
If we don't pay, do you hear he's like, if we don't pay these guys to kill each other, and it's just insane. No, we don't pay them to kill each other. We pay them to not kill each other, you fucking idiots. Not kill each other. You missed the not part. You missed the not part. You don't pay them to keep killing each other. You pay them to not kill each other.
Protect us. No, I would not protect you. In fact,
if you fire a shot, the aid goes away. Right? Is it simple enough? Fire a shot, the aid goes away. It's good aid. It's going to remain there for years. We will help you. We love you. We're your friends, but we're not going to buy you guns so you can shoot each other. That's not happening.
to do whatever the hell they want.
Though also there, I'll mention that there's a video going around today where Putin claims that he wants Harris to win, but really we've seen most serious people having the impression that that was just a joke, because really everything points to his real preference being Trump. And in any case, this comes as the Biden-Harris administration has announced a bunch of new measures to fight back.
I got
against
another
Russian efforts
small
to
hand
influence
blade.
this year's election, with the State Department, for example, designating 5 Russian state-funded news outlets, including RT, as foreign government missions. So with that, making it harder for employees of those outlets to get visas to the U.S. And then you have the DOJ seizing 32 internet domains that were reportedly used to spread Russian propaganda. There, notably, the websites being designed to look like authentic news sites, but they were actually fake. Also, the Treasury Department announced new sanctions, including against RT's editor-in-chief and 9 other employees. So the department saying there that the editor-in-chief is a, quote, central figure in Russian government malign influence efforts. And of course, all of this is on top of other actions that we've seen recently. Like in March, for example, the Treasury imposed sanctions on the Social Design Agency and another Russian company accused of creating fake news sites to spread misinformation. Also, law enforcement has reportedly even been investigating Americans who have worked with Russia's state television networks in the past. With that actually leading to another indictment today of a guy who was an advisor to Trump's first campaign and who's now accused of money laundering and violating sanctions. But of course, with all this, especially when you're talking about investigating Americans, there's a question about where the line is. Right? Some Americans, especially amongst Trump supporters, they see accusations that Russia is spreading disinformation as efforts to undermine their views. And to that point, you just have to take a quick look online, especially on X. Right? You had Russiagate trending, and you had people, not even necessarily just Trump supporters, saying things like, just as in 2016 and 2020, Biden admin to activate Russiagate propaganda to manipulate U.S. opinion ahead of the 2024 election. Which, I will say, this is kind of more of a general statement. No matter where you are on the political spectrum, it never hurts to be a little bit skeptical. But I also think it's important not to have such an open mind that your brain slips out. And often what I see is, for some reason, when the topic of Russian interference pops up, some people will automatically try to make it sound like you're saying, oh, the election machines, those were tampered with by Russia. And what you're actually talking about are the bot and troll farms and the attempts to spread misinformation online, which has been seen and proven. Also, a big thing with this situation is you have people like Paul M. Barrett, the deputy director of the Stern Center for Business and Human Rights at NYU, arguing that the government has to walk a fine line to distinguish between foreign election interference and free speech.
I need to
defrost. You had him telling the New York Times.
Some lunch meat. I totally forgot. I'll be right back.
The dividing line is when you identify activity, particularly concealed activity, that is circumventing established regulations for how we try to prevent foreign interference in our election. Right? And if that line is crossed, he says, it's not a reason to just run up the free speech flag and throw up your hands and we're helpless in the face of Vladimir Putin's very clever operatives. And there, I should also say that Biden officials have made a point to say they are not aiming to curb free speech. Right? They've actually been saying that Americans won't be investigated just for repeating or spreading stories they see on Russian state media. And so far, we've seen no indication that that's untrue. Yeah, for now, that is where the situation's gonna end, though obviously we're gonna keep our eyes on it. And in the meantime, I gotta ask, what are your thoughts on any and all of this? Whether it be around Tenet Media and the influencers there specifically, or just the situation as a whole. But then, shifting gears to a very different topic, let's talk about why so many people are focused right now on Chapel Roan fighting scalpers. Because she has an upcoming show in Franklin, Tennessee in October, and she posted a video explaining, hey, tickets sold out incredibly fast, but not in a good way, in a very sketchy way. And that was because bots and scalpers took basically all the tickets. With that, obviously not ideal for anyone except maybe the scalpers, so her team came up with a plan to get those tickets back to the fans.
So we went through and canceled all the scalper tickets we could. So from that,
wow,
a limited number of
that's
tickets.
brave.
I want to make sure that
I love it.
People who actually want to come and
yeah, come on, man. The actual fans, you know what I'm saying? Fuck this shit. Your tickets got out of hand. You need to lock the prices at like between $20 and $100. I mean, come on, tickets aren't worth more than that. You fit sometimes 5,000, 10,000 people. 10,000 times $100 is so much goddamn money. I'm sorry, but those tickets, you don't need to make them any more than $20 to $100. You make so much money. It honestly, I would go back to seeing 2 shows every week. Like Friday night, I'd be like, all right, guys, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go see Purity Ring in North Dakota or something, right? I seriously would, like I don't know, but all my bands, I think they suffered, and I think all of the scalpers profited. It's the same old bullshit. It's price fixing. It's the same old bullshit. It's price fixing across every single fucking reality there is. Video games, movies, television, DVDs, tickets to concerts, cell phones, laptops, video cards. It's all price fixing. Money, but by money I mean like Forex and rent, food, water, shelter, education, cars, transportation, healthcare. It's all price fix, all of it. Even the scalpers on the fucking tickets. It's just shitheads trying to fucking middlemen. It's the corruption killing the world. We must get like an idea that the price fixing has to stop. It's like everything has a basic value, and it's very simple, sort of. Most things, short of like humans, has basic value, that you can easily attain,
To request up to 2 tickets. Just fill out a form with payment information and seat preference, and then a select number.
Like I just can't ever see a gallon of milk being more than $2.40. I just can't see it. And $2.40 steep too. I would prefer like $1.69 honestly, and a quart should be half that, at like 70 cents or something. That's what it was. You think I'm fucking tripping, but no, that's what it was for the first 13 years of my life. Like a quart of milk was like 80 cents, and a quart was 80 cents, and a gallon was, maybe $2, like $1.79 or something like that. Like bread was like maybe 50 to $1.25 for like the first 13 years of my life. It's not this fucking $5.50 to $7 or whatever. Cars were always like maybe 19 grand. Now they're like fucking 45 or something, or they're like 30. They're like 30. And it's just weird. It's like, why? Wouldn't you make more money selling more stuff?
Learning by the end of the week if they're picked, and chapel adding.
I know it's confusing, and it's so annoying.
Yeah, it's confusing, but we're having a battle in the industry because all the bad middlemen, corrupt assholes. Oop. This was bad. And that's what evasion is for.
Genuinely am so pissed about the scalper situation and think that people actually deserve to get to my show. This is a larger issue. We're dealing with it.
And so with this, you have places like Variety noting, this is not a new problem. Race scalpers are a very big problem at basically every concert on the face of the earth, but there's not a ton of precedent for artists actually finding and canceling those tickets. So there is some, right? Eric Church has done it, The Cure has as well. Oasis warned that it planned to do it for its tour, with them actually having a sale that was so messy it's now under investigation in the UK. But really, other than that, it's not too common. Taylor Swift did a similar fan request ticket system after the Eras tour sale was botched. Though it was never really clarified if those seats were from canceled scalper seats. But for now, we'll have to wait to see how this plays out for Chapel Roan, and maybe this becomes the norm. Or what we may see are scalpers finding just another way around this as well, which personally is what I have my money on. And if not now, it's just a matter of time. And then, we all have changes that we should/need to make, but in order for them to take, most of us need to ease into it. It can't be about giving up a bad habit, but more like reworking your brain to switch up your habit. I mean, take it from the sponsor of today's show, Fume. Fume takes your habit and simply makes it better, healthier, and a whole lot more enjoyable, because Fume has no artificial flavors, nasty chemicals, or batteries involved. And it's founded on on the flavor, fidget, and fixation principle. If you ingrain your good habit into everyday life, it makes healthy changes feel easier, less intrusive. It's a guilt-free alternative, and the fidgeter in me likes the movable parts and the magnets. You know, it's balanced just right to keep fingers busy, which is kind of calming in a weird way for me. And you can even adjust the airflow to your liking. Plus, it tastes great with tons of flavors to choose from, like retro sweet flavors and their most recent peach blush, all lasting 3 days a pop. They're tasty, exciting, and subtle, not overwhelming. And Hume has served over 300,000 customers, and you could be the next success story. Just go to tryfum.com/DeFranco and use code DeFranco to get a free gift with your journey pack. That's tryfum.com/DeFranco, code DeFranco. Then we had Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift back in the news, though not because Taylor Swift was featured 5 times in a 29-second hype video for the opening of the NFL season, rather over allegations that their whole relationship is just one big giant hoax. With that allegation absolutely blowing up after alleged breakup documents went viral on Reddit and Twitter outlining Travis's media plan following their planned separation. Those documents were said to be photographed from a desk and said full scope.
It sucks when your life becomes a construct of its own that lives and breathes and it demands things from you. It's just crazy. I have so much sympathy for her. Like, there were times in my life where my responsibilities definitely turned me into something that I didn't want to be. Definitely. I can relate.
Relations at the top, which is the company that represents Travis, with a set objective of this plan being to effectively manage and mitigate the fallout from the breakup between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, ensuring Travis retains a positive public image, minimizes negative media portrayal, and
I just don't think those two people should be together. She looks like she should be with a young metrosexual, maybe Asian design major. And he looks like he should be with a down south lady. And I don't think their scenes ever should have crossed. But I bet they did date. I bet they dated really passionately.
Build his personal and professional brand. And it adding that key messaging would be emphasizing that the split was a mutual decision and that they respect each other and want privacy during this time.
Yeah, it was just dating. Dating is dating. It's fine. Who cares? The world is so dumb and weird now. The world's dumb and weird. It's like they can't even get over the concept of somebody dating and not marrying and then getting a divorce. It's like actually really weird. The world is so weird and dumb now. So social media really had a bad effect.
Saying the breakup would be announced September 28th. And that following that, Travis would do interviews with a ton of outlets like ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Vanity Fair, GQ, and even local stations, even including plans for interview prep and training and sort of canned phrases Travis could use during those. And so those documents made people think not just that the two might break up, but that this whole thing was just bullshit. It was just a PR stunt to begin with. But, big thing, those documents are apparently fake, and Travis's team might even lawyer up over it. With a spokesperson from Full Scope telling the Today Show, these documents are entirely false and fabricated and were not created, issued, or authorized by this agency. We have engaged our legal team to initiate proceedings against the individuals or entities responsible for the unlawful and injurious forgery of documents. So yeah, we'll have to see what comes from all this, but it's not surprising that there was this big freak out, or really that anything's happened. The amount of people that are so invested in this it's just huge. It's just a matter of if the attention is going to be as big as, I guess, the honeymoon season of the announcement. But right now, there's an insane media frenzy speculating about whether or not Taylor's going to be at tonight's Chiefscape, which, yes, in the DeFranco household, we will be watching. My wife, for Taylor and Travis, and me, because this is the first time Lamar Jackson's on my fantasy team. So sorry, Ravens fans, in advance if tonight does not go your way. It is
Ravens fans?
My fault. So yeah, you're welcome, or sorry in advance. But then, switching to sad and serious news, we need to talk about updates to the tragic school shooting that happened in Georgia yesterday. First up, we saw the authorities releasing the identities of the 4 people.
Fucking pissant kids shooting up their fucking schools. In my day, we had one school shooting in like 10 years. These guys are like once a week.
Jason Schermerhorn and Christian Angelo, both of whom were 14 years old. And the two educators who were killed were 39-year-old Richard Aspinwall and 53-year-old Christina Irami. And as far as the 9 people who were hospitalized with injuries, authorities said that 8 of them were students, 1 is a teacher, and
yay for the survivors!
We also got more information about the shooter who's been identified as a 14-year-old student.
Staying alive, staying alive, staying alive.
Officials investigated him last year in connection to online threats of a school shooting. Right, and more specifically, the FBI said that it had received several anonymous tips in May of 2023 about posts on a gaming site that contained photos of guns and...
Oh, good, gaming site. Notice the word that came up, gaming site, immediately.
Warnings of a school shooting at an unidentified location and time. The FBI telling reporters that it tracked the post to Jackson County, where sheriff's deputies then continued the investigation, which led them to the suspected shooter, who was 13 at the time. And so with that, Jackson County officials brought in the teen and his father for an interview, but the teen denied making the threats. And while his father told the authorities that they did have hunting guns in the house, he said that his son didn't have unsupervised access to the weapons. So as a result, no charges were filed, and with the FBI saying that the investigators lacked probable cause to make...
Where did he get the weapons? Did he bust into the dad's gun safe, steal the key, or what? That's what I would do if I was doing that. I would never do that, but if I was in that kid's situation and I'm getting guns, how the fuck am I gonna do that? I'm gonna go crack into the gun safe. Is how I'm gonna do that, you know?
Law enforcement action on the local, state, or federal levels. Also, in a separate statement, Jackson County Sheriff Janice Mangum said a thorough investigation was conducted, but the gaming site threats could not be substantiated, and adding, "My phone is blowing up with messages from people about social media postings about other possible incidents. To my knowledge, there is not a list indicating any of this." Now, with that said, the FBI did say that Jackson County authorities alerted local schools for continued monitoring of the subject, but according to the New York Times, it's unclear if Appalachia High School officials were among those notified by Jackson County officials, because the school is technically in the neighboring county. And also super notably here, just this morning we got some more details from the records of the investigation by the county sheriff's office obtained by several outlets, with those records showing that Jackson County officials were specifically investigating posts in a Discord chat group where a user had threatened to shoot up a middle school. And the investigators were ultimately led to the suspected shooter because the Discord account that made those threats was associated with an email belonging to him. That report noting that the username for the account was written in Russian and translated to the last name of the Sandy Hook shooter. But then also with that, the 13-year-old and his father told the authorities that they didn't speak Russian. And while the shooter did say that he used to have a Discord account, he claimed that he had deleted it because he had been hacked repeatedly and was afraid someone would use his information for nefarious purposes, with him also telling the investigator that, quote, he would never say such a thing, even in a joking manner. Also significant here is the information we got from the teen's father about his access to guns, with him having told investigators that his son, quote, is allowed to use them when supervised, but does not have unfettered access to them. But it's also unclear how those weapons were being stored or how the teen was prevented from accessing them, with the investigator writing that they had, quote, urged the father to keep his firearms locked away. And then beyond all that, the Times also just reported this morning that while police were searching the shooter's room, they found evidence that he, quote, had an interest in mass shootings, per two law enforcement officials. While they didn't provide specifics about the nature of that evidence, they did say that he appeared to be particularly obsessed with the Parkland shooting. And then the final update I want to hit on is that while I was filming, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation officially announced that the shooter has been charged with 4 counts of felony murder. And so as of recording, that's pretty much everything we know, but of course, this is still a developing situation. So for now, we're gonna have to wait to see if more information comes, but I mean, as far as what happens next, the shooter is expected to make his first appearance in court tomorrow. And then AI made this guy millions of dollars, but now he's facing prison time for it. I'll explain, right? We're talking about a guy by the name of Michael Smith, who was just arrested and charged with 3 counts of wire fraud conspiracy, and money laundering conspiracy. And this because, according to prosecutors, Smith used AI to create fake music, uploaded that music to music streaming services, and then used bots to play that music billions of times. And in doing so, he made $10 million in fraudulent streaming royalty payments. And actually, according to the federal indictment, this scheme started all the way back in 2017. Right, first, Smith allegedly acquired thousands of email addresses online, and using those made thousands of bot accounts on the music streaming services. And at the scheme's peak, Smith allegedly had 10,000 active bot accounts and even hired co-conspirators to do the data entry part of creating these accounts. The indictment then went on to say that Smith created software that streamed the songs that he owned on loops from different computers to make it all look genuine, and that, along with a number of other methods to conceal his fraud. Though apparently his foray into the music world, it didn't start with the goal of fraud. Turns out, as a legitimate musician, Smith started by posting his own small catalog of songs onto music streaming platforms. But then, according to the indictment, when he realized he needed more content to make more money, he initially partnered with a music publicist. Also later, even trying to sell his services to other musicians, asking them to pay him to play their music or hand over a chunk of their royalties. But when both of those plans didn't work out, Smith allegedly turned to AI. The prosecutor saying that he partnered with an unnamed CEO of an AI music company and an unnamed music promoter in 2018 to create just an absurd number of bogus AI songs. I mean, we're talking thousands of which he uploaded every week to platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music. And with that, one of the ways that he allegedly avoided detection by the platforms was spreading out the streams over this massive number of songs, never streaming one too many times. And then even when he did catch somebody's attention, prosecutors said Smith just lied through his teeth to get out of it. Also, getting into the specifics of the numbers here, according to a financial breakdown from 2017, Smith allegedly calculated that he could stream his song 661,440 times each day, with that bringing in daily royalty payments of just over $3,000 and totaling over $1 million annually. But big thing, that was before he started using AI, right? By June of 2019, Smith was allegedly earning over $100,000 a month, with a portion going to his co-conspirators. And in an email sent in February of this year, Smith reportedly bragged that he had reached 4 billion streams and $12 million in royalties since 2019. With U.S. Attorney Damian Williams saying in a statement, through his brazen fraud scheme, Smith stole millions in royalties that should have been paid to musicians.
Oh, look, I got really good boots that I didn't see. Oh, look, I got really fucking good boots. Genuinely good boots. Yes, it's a huge upgrade, like a really big upgrade. I didn't expect it. Yas, queen. Yas, queen. Oh, my God. Yes. Oh, I got 4 more agility out of nowhere. It's actually huge. It's huge. I really didn't expect that. I got another fucking dagger. Well, I'm going to sell it. That's going to upgrade my damage. Damn it. I should do it till last night.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Why did we dock? Okay. I thought I went to... Oh, I must have clicked the wrong thing, huh?
Writers and other rights holders whose songs were legitimately streamed. And adding, today, thanks to the work of the FBI and the career prosecutors of this office, it's time for Smith to face the music. These motherfuckers.
Yep.
You know that motherfucker laughed when he wrote that down. But, bad pun aside, Smith is in very real trouble. He is facing decades in prison, with each of his charges carrying a maximum sentence of 20 years. And then, so y'all, I am a fan of Rocket Money, and one of the reasons I'm a huge fan is because they make my life easier. You know, I got an alert the other week that another
These commercials are getting longer than the fucking show.
Price increased. I mean, I'm keeping the subscription, but I love that it alerted me. Also, too, yeah, another reason I love them is Rocket Money. Thank you for being a fantastic sponsor of today's show again. You know, the key thing is that Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. The dashboard's absolutely great, giving you a clear view of your expenses across all of your accounts. You can get alerts like I do if bills increase in price, there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over budget. Or you can also create a personalized budget with custom categories to help keep your spending on track. I mean, y'all, they will even try to negotiate to lower your bills by up to 20%. You just submit a picture of your bill and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. And Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved over 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PDS. That's rocketmoney.com/PDS, rocketmoney.com/PDS. And then, with the election coming up, forget the polls. Look up to the sky and look at the stars. That is a real thing that people who are going to vote are doing right now, with seemingly an increasing number of people getting very invested what astrologers have to say about this election. And as wild as that may all sound, I mean, this is actually far from the first time astrology and politics have intersected. I mean, if you actually look into it, a lot of historical world leaders have relied on astrology, right? I mean, this phenomenon, it didn't fall out of a coconut tree. It exists in the context. And right now, a lot of readings about the election are going viral because, as chaotic as this cycle has already been, some astrologers actually predicted how it would go down. Not only calling that Biden would jump out of the race, but getting some of it down to the exact date he'd do so. And I mean, some of these predictions, they go as far back as 2020. And in the weeks before Biden even stepped out, some started looking at Kamala and saying,
if you put Biden up against Trump, Trump's activations astrologically look a lot better. However, because Biden's looks so weird, it's like it doesn't even look like someone who's doing anything major, really. It looks like somebody who is staying home, essentially. So looking at his chart, I was like, okay, is he even the nominee?
I then almost feel like Biden somehow does come into presidency in some way. And mostly I feel that way because I feel like we might end up with Kamala Harris as our actual president. Again, this is a hot take. I actually really don't follow politics closely, so this is just based on astrology, honestly.
I bet she
Not
doesn't.
every video got everything 100%, but a lot was pretty on the money. You know, astrology, it's something you either buy into or you don't. Just to be clear, I personally do not. But the point here isn't to sell you on it or sell you against it or tell you what's bound to happen in November.
I absolutely believe in astrology. I find my phone. Where is my phone? I don't see it. Oh, there it is. I want to go look for something here. Yeah, this is it. This is what I want to see. Yep, I'm going to share it.
What's really interesting is why so many people are looking at it right now and how it's being used for potential answers during a time of political uncertainty. So with this, we actually talked to astrologist Catherine Urban, who not only made accurate predictions about this election so far, but had very interesting insights as to why people have become so invested.
I think people have always looked to astrology to help answer questions that are unknown. People have always consulted the stars as well as other forms of divination to gain clarity on the future, especially when there's a lot at stake, like there seems to be with this election.
We're saying usually she talks to people who want answers about personal issues like their marriage, their career, or their health. You know, right now, the line between personal and political, it is super, super thin.
I guess maybe that's one of the reasons why we're seeing it more and more mainstream around this election is because the outcome of this election does become personal for a lot of people, you know, as far as the decisions people are able to make about their bodies, for example, you know, that being like a high ticket issue, people do feel that the outcome of this election will impact them personally. And so I think more people are invested in knowing what's going to happen.
And astrology generally is becoming more and more popular, especially among young people. With, for example, a survey from YouGov in 2022 finding that 27% of Americans, including 37% of adults under 30, say they believe in astrology or the general idea that the stars and planets influence our lives. And in fact, as many as 70 million Americans reportedly check their horoscopes every day. But I mean, this election in particular, it is so crazy. It is people turning to literally anything for guidance. I mean, there is a woman and prepared prepare yourselves to hear this sentence. Who predicts the future by looking at asparagus. Yes, the vegetable asparagus. She is called the Asparamancer, and at the start of the year, she said that the U.S. would get its first female president this year, though she later indicated she didn't think it would be Kamala. As far as why people are turning to divination specifically to seek out these answers, Catherine says it's twofold. Or people have a natural longing to find something bigger than themselves. It's why a lot of people turn to religion, but for those who want something non-denominational or more open-minded
that's
for
me.
themselves, astrology can fit that bill. And this is we see the stars and the moon every night, which makes them easy to relate to. But she also added that lately it feels like there's a lot to make sense of.
We live in an information age, and this is kind of a newer development for human beings. Our nervous systems are not used to taking in this much information. Historically, human beings are wired to know what's going on locally and maybe a little bit nationally. We're plugged in all the time. And so there are more things to be anxious about generally. And so I'm not so sure that we necessarily live in times that are more stressful than our ancestors. It's just that there's a deeper awareness of more ongoings. So there is more that we are forced to care about.
You know, like I said earlier, some of the most powerful people in the world have been certified astrology girlies. I mean, even Ronald Reagan, he and Nancy were known to frequently refer to an astrologist while in the White House, specifically turning to the field after the assassination attempt against him. While they downplayed it as a hobby, many others have shot back at that. So for example, Reagan's former chief of staff once writing in a memoir, virtually every major move and decision the Reagans made during my time as White House chief of staff was cleared in advance with a woman in San Francisco who drew up horoscopes to make certain that the planets were in favorable alignment for the enterprise. And that woman was Joan Quigley, and she said that she worked in the White House for 7 years and was responsible for timing press conferences, speeches, when Air Force One would fly, and even when debates would happen. Many reports also claim that J.P. Morgan, right, the actual human person, not the bank, was also into astrology. And he is often credited with saying that millionaires don't need astrologers, but billionaires do. And as for why powerful people have often turned to astrology, Catherine said that, like everyday people, it all has to do with feelings of uncertainty and a need for answers.
Historically, a lot of world leaders have used astrologers because, you know, there's a lot at stake for that kind of role. And to try to anticipate what might happen as far as world events and things that might impact a nation.
And in fact, those stakes actually kind of brought on the first forms of astrology ages and ages ago, right? I mean, it was initially used to look at more of a collective.
It was used by kings and rulers in order to understand what's going to be impacting our kingdom as far as things like droughts or famines or pandemics and things like that.
But then fast forward to today, and it's not just about personal life or politics or global crises. Some people use astrology to predict what's going to happen with the stock market, which I know may not be the finance bro crossover you expected, but you know, it's happening. But as far as November goes, you have Catherine saying, you know, it's not like astrologers look into crystal balls or have that so Raven-esque visions, right? Though when it comes to the election and even just to how we got here, she did say,
for many years, many of my colleagues, as well as myself, have been anticipating the rise of Kamala Harris, as well as issues with Biden's health. I started paying closer attention to Kamala Harris's chart when she became elected the vice president. And that's when I was like, ooh, watch out.
With all that said, you know, I'll say a different version of what I always say. Ignore the polls, ignore astrology, and make sure you just Virgo to the polls. Don't boo me. You can't shame a man that's embraced his cringe. But that aside, any and all thoughts you have regarding astrology, tarot, anything, I'd love to hear from you, and maybe even with your experiences in those comments down below. But then finally today, we got a congratulations, and then let's talk about yesterday. Starting with a congratulations to this week's SeatGeek prize winner. Of course, getting $500 towards any tickets on SeatGeek, where you can go to see your favorite artist, comedian, or player, really whatever. I mean, there's 70,000 events to choose from. And for everyone else, that's right, SeatGeek and the Daily Dip are still giving away up to $1,000 in tickets, and you should definitely enter today if you haven't already. You just add code PDS to your SeatGeek app profile for a chance at the weekly $500 prize, no purchase necessary. And also $1,000 prizes are available for Daily Dip subscribers who add code PDS newsletter, doubling entries and winning. But then with that said, of course, let's talk about yesterday with some commentary. And there, we definitely saw a lot of comments around that HOA deep dive. Where some like Steven saying, wait, so you're telling me effectively privatizing infrastructure by giving it to an HOA instead of leaving it to the city isn't working working out? Insert shocked face here. Morgan saying the fact that the idea of an HOA even exists in the modern world is insane. And adding even more insane is that the amount of houses that stuck under an HOA has increased. It's maddening. And while that was a very popular comment, you also had some pushing back, like Chris, who said, it is not insane, it's practical. My dad's house was next to a junkyard crack den house, and it really screwed him over in selling his house. Everyone saw the neighbors coming down the road, and that was all it took for them to bail. We also had Insanity. Sharon grew up in an HOA for mobile homes where the board didn't upkeep roads, the park, the pool, or the public boat launch. Took my parents to court for refusing to pay fees, but the judge threw the case out when my parents brought photographic evidence of zero upkeep. Basically told the HOA it needed to do the upkeep instead of pocketing the fees. So there's really no shortage of anecdotal stories, right? My Lady Action. My friend bought a house with an HOA right before the pandemic, and he's now being evicted because there is a water leak problem causing sinkholes, and the city said the HOA has to pay for it, and the HOA doesn't have the money, even though they're charging over $300 a month and barely maintain anything. And here, I will say I've had different experiences, right? Like where I live right now, knock on wood, the HOA has been fantastic, very hands-off. It seems like the things that need fixing get fixed. No one's being like crazy nitpicky, but the rules and the guidelines seem to make the neighborhood look fantastic. But then in other places, like where I've set some family up, super over-the-top nitpicky. I mean, we've been trying to get a generator installed for far too long. Sometimes it feels like jumping through hoops for the sake of hoops, like a power thing. But luckily, none of my experiences are any of the numerous nightmares that were shared in those comments. But then also, in the comments, we'll end on something lighter, and that is all the conversation around that whole Concord failure. And a number of the comments left me wondering, you know, if they do try to bring this game back, could it actually be successful as a free-to-play? Because it very much appeared that a lot of people never knew this game was a thing, like me. With Daniel saying, I never even heard of Concord until everyone started talking about what a major flop it was. Followed by, same. This video is the first I heard. Really? The others also saying that's surprising because they tried really hard. It was a feature at a few games conferences. The devs made waves recalling everybody who had a valid criticism of it talentless freaks. Probably not a great thing if true. I mean, so there is a world if you take a game that was previously being sold.
You didn't know about talentless freaks? It was like the biggest story on this week's video games.
$40, and granted, not that many people bought it. With this whole debacle, I mean, there is a possibility that people become interested and go, hey, if it's free $99, I'll try it out, see if it is actually trash. So then, of course, if it is trash, people will just drop that game and play the other of plenty free games. So who knows? But that, my friends, is the end of your Thursday evening, Friday morning dive into the news. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. If you're anyone, just hit that like button. And of course, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love your faces, and I'll see you right back here next time.
Hey, what up, friendos? Welcome back. We're talking.
Yeah, Kira. Thank you, Kira, for the excellent content from Mystery. I would like to sub to your channel.
Frequent of my MMO coverage of Camelot Unchained, which was supposed to be.
Oops.
Hey, what up, friendos? Welcome back. We're talking today about Final Stand Ragnarok. You probably know
Final Stand Ragnarok.
Frequent of my MMO coverage of Camelot Unchained, which was supposed to be the new version, you know, Dark Age of Camelot 2.0, an old MMO that a lot of people really enjoyed. It went to Kickstarter in 2013. So just from that sentence, you already know that this story goes to a real dark place for the fans, because 2013 was 11 years ago and the MMO is still not released. In fact, it's been in beta now for the better part of that 11 years, but it was never really a beta. And they've been testing like the same sort of patches focused on like UI design for months and months at this stage. And the news here, because I do like to check in on the Kickstarter MMOs every now and again just to see what's going on. Okay, brief history. They said that there was news for the game coming out, and then the news for the game coming out ended up being another game called Final Stand Ragnarok. And as you can see from this SteamDB chart here, it really didn't go very well if you look at like the player history.
You know, there's another game I'm going to look into tonight that I'm going to look to on a different fucking tip. But there was a game that I kind of worried might actually be good called Reign of Guilds, and I want to see how that's doing. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's fallen short. never mind.
of when it came out.
I just released $80 back into my budget. I won't be able to spend it for 5 or 6 days, but I just released $80 back into my budget, and I might buy a few games. You know, I don't know if there's anything on my wish list that's good right now. Maybe I should look. I love being able to play all these fucking games. It's so fun. It actually is. So, oh yeah, that's right. I bought Rust stuff. I totally fucking spaced that. So, library. No, I'm trying to go to the store. Featured wish list. Turbos 2. Yeah, that's what we're start looking on the wish list for anything that's less than $5 or whatever. On sale, which is Atomic Heart is cheap. It's $24. Could buy Atomic Heart. Might buy Atomic Heart, but it'll I don't know when it'll. I do like Atomic Heart. I thought it was actually Come to Granny. Come to Granny. It's actually so funny. Come to Granny. Come to Granny was actually such a fucking funny part of that fucking game. It was so funny. Come to Granny. She shoots this rocket launcher. It's so funny. It's fucking come to Granny. It was like a really good meme that nobody knows about. Like Atomic Heart has a bunch of really good parts. Now that I know the game, I don't know. The game was hard, and it was also kind of dumb. It required you to do a lot more melee than it should have, kind of. Yeah, it was kind of an ammo-starved game, a little bit. And I don't like ammo-starve. Ammo-starve is not a good... Spellbinder pants. They have they're cloth. But I mean, are they better? 48. No, their armor's worse, but it does have 2 stamina. But I mean, is armor better? I think armor's better. Well, it's money. I'm making a lot of money now.
Text-to-speech set to enabled.
Or percent addict. Chrono says, I mean the day to day. Kibblebald says, man, I'm so happy we got an RFC run in tonight. You receive loot, Okra. You loot 30 copper. Chrono says, grats. Kibblebald says, got a crazy sword too. Ojo Sazul says, wow. Ojo Sazul says, back-to-back gems off Rich Vein.
I have to go fishing soon. It's
You receive
annoying.
loot, flask of oil. You loot 16 copper. Ojo Sazul says, cheesy. Ojo Sazul says, huge emerald arcane crystal. Kibblebald says, nice. Dabbusiness says, let's go. Kibblebald says, oh damn those arcane crystals are expensive. Arcana Banana says, well that happened. Masterwork target dummy saved my at-number dollar. Ojo Sazul says, yeah. Ojo Sazul says, I just used 12 today. Kibblebald says, that's what they are there for. skycat.live says, need 100 LOL. Kibblebald says, who was nibbling on your banana? Arcana Banana says, 35 Jarl needs eyes, 1206, spiders, aggroed 5 of them and no CD.
Yay, money.
Warp drive active.
Ojo Sazul says, sorry got in CB.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
You loot 6 copper. Ojo Sazul says, but yet arcanes only come from rich thorium veins, and those are mostly around elites in 56 plus zones. You receive loot, flask of oil. You loot 26 copper. skycat.live says, used to donate them to my off-tank in era. Ojo Sazul says, since they're used in bulk for epic recipes they cost a lot. skycat.live says, isn't Thunder Fury 1A 100 of them? Dabisness says, finally got banish. Skycat.live says, I forget. Dabisness says, game time. Ojo Sazul says, that sounds like too many. Ojo Sazul says, can check in SEC. Skycat.live says, maybe it was less. Ojo Sazul says, usually big weapons are around 30 Arcanite bars. You loot 21 copper.
Alright.
Moldy Kibble says, % and asterisk, gotta make a macro to use my new sword. You receive loot, rough wooden staff. You loot 22 copper. Ojo Sazul says, NBM you're right. Skycat.live says, I knew I was haha. Skycat.live says, LOL. Skycat.live says, as I gave him like 80. Ojo Sazul says, it's 10 elementium bars, which require 10 Arcanites each. Ojo Sazul says, and more. Skycat.live says, was guild enchanter. You receive loot, Willow Cape of Fiery Wrath. You receive loot, Copper Modulator. You receive loot, Okra. You loot 21 copper. Ojo Sazul says, God that is a disgusting amount of mats. Skycat.live says, yeah you don't forget it lol. Fusa says, is there a arrow seller in Esternar? Ojo Sazul says, getting 12 myself this week sucked. Skycat.live says, yes. Skycat.live says, General Met Samura. Skycat.live says, all time. Ojo Sazul says, BRB. You receive loot, Okra. You loot 12 copper. Arcane of Banana says, Bone Biter much better than WW right, Whirlwind Axe. Skycat.live says, 5 more DPS. You receive loot, Flask of Oil. You loot 28 copper. Skycat.live says, better. Arcane of Banana says, WW is slower though. You receive loot, Cadet Gauntlets. You receive loot, Hops. You loot 22 copper. You loot 4 copper.
Release here, they've never had more than like a few dozen players online at once, and this is like a tower defense sort of like wave fighting game. There's currently 0 players online, and yet they're still releasing updates for this. And the fucking funny news is that they just actually released an update that puts cash shop, a functional cash shop in the game, plus skins in a game that there is literally no players. A 24-hour peak of 4 people, and obviously the game goes through like hour stretches throughout the week where there's 0 people online, or 1 playing on their own for some reason, which must be people on the team, surely, because I can't imagine other people playing this. But let's have it summed up by Chris, and then we'll go over some other stuff relating to Camelot Unchained and Final Fantasy Ragnarok. So Final Fantasy Ragnarok, you all remember that game. It's a side project of Camelot Unchained Studio Unchained Development that went into its 3rd early access release this past March, and is still in early access to this day, even as it put out a 1.0 update. Usually, of course, 1.0 means
Is your launch.
It's release.
Your launch. Your launch.
Who cares?
Who cares?
The game is back in headlines once again thanks to the 1.2 update that arrived earlier this week, which has introduced another lineup of features headlined by the new champion, Carthalon the Gladiator, a melee damage dealer and healer who swings 2 blades through enemies to build up further, which can then be spent to heal allies and buff himself. Another major update is a revamp of the progression trees, and the final update is a more compact, repeatable and challenging experience for smaller parties.
I'm out of axes. Damn
not
it.
only that, of course,
Oh.
it's now also
Maybe
got,
the farmer
there you go,
sells them.
new character skins, and as you can see, fucking fantastic skins, amazing, 2 wooden one-piece skins, Sorry, just killed on RuneScape real quick. You've got bare-chested, thick-thighed, strong man wearing some ropes, and then everyone else is in a bikini and
Wait, go back.
wearing
It's like Baywatch, but they're Ragnarok.
some ropes, and then everyone else is in a bikini and things. Cool. In any third-person game, you're going to spend the vast majority of your experience staying at your chosen character. That means watching them hack, slash, and blast their way through thousands of enemies in an epic battle for the ages. Epic. No players playing the game. Very epic. But not every battle has to be fought with grim, dark determination. There's always room for sunshine. That's why to cap off summer full of FSR updates, we'll be releasing our beach collection. It's time for the champions of Ragnarok to soak in some sun and catch some snow waves, available for purchase through the in-game store. Make sure to pick them up so you can close out the summer in style. Who are you speaking to? There is nobody playing this fucking game. Oh, who is this update aimed at? Like, more people wrote this update.
What is this game aimed at?
Like, this was probably proofread by more people than own the game.
Who is this game for?
I just don't get it.
I don't get it either. Like, why do you guys waste this much money? It's like, come on, man. I think that, I swear to God, I knew this developer. I knew this actual developer. He was sitting in the back of the coffee shop that I went to all the time. Really good friend of mine, actually. And he was a fucking genius, and he worked at the Apple store in Cherry Creek Mall. And I know because I used to send him customers and stuff, asking him if they would help him with their Apple devices. And this is actually a plague for him, and he didn't like this about me. He actually ended the friendship because I was constantly send people. I thought it was actually very funny. My friend Jay, he was a wonderful Mexican man. Really smart man. I got along with him great. He was really inspiring, man. Super genius. He was very, very fucking smart. But I thought it was very funny that he had a whole genius at work thing going on. He definitely did. And he worked at the Apple store, and it was his whole vibe. You can see it. And he was developing a game, and the only game that he played was No Man's Sky. But he was a game developer, and he had a game, and he was doing the drawings himself, and he was in the back of the coffee shop, and he would do all of his game work at the coffee shop and stuff. And he was a developer, and he was a really awesome guy. I really liked him. I wish him success right now. I'm not trying to make fun of him or anything like this, but it was just kind of funny. I found it very funny that he worked at the Apple store, because everybody that I knew hated their Apple stuff. And I thought it was kind of funny how he basically really felt legitimized by it. But honestly, everybody that I knew hated their Apple devices, so I thought it was very funny. And so our friendship began with me trying to send everybody that I knew, which was my mechanic friend, his girlfriend, my other friend, his girlfriend, a couple of the people at the coffee shop, and then my other friend's girlfriend in my inner circle. And I sent him like 11 iPhone customers, and he ended the friendship over it because he was like, I couldn't help any of these people, and you sent me all of these problems I couldn't solve. And you could tell he was kind of frustrated. He was like, I'm kind of annoyed that I gave you my phone number, dude. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'll stop. Yeah, I did. I told him, I was like, look, I actually really like being friends with you. I'm not trying to be weird. He was like, stop sending me Apple customers that I can't fix. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought it was so funny. I hated Apple, and the only thing about him that I didn't like was how proud he was that he worked at Apple. I was like, I'm sorry, but god damn it, I'm gonna start sending you the customers, because all of my friends have Apples, and all of them are miserable, all of them, and I'm gonna send all of them to you. And I did this as a joke. He didn't even know me, really. He didn't know me. He like we were chilling. He was like, hey, you want to be Facebook friends? So I was like, yeah, dude. We hang out every day. We chill. We're cool. Yeah, dude. Absolutely. Here's my number. Here, I'll call you and shit. You don't have to use it or ever text me. I don't know you really. It's good. We're just cool. We're acquaintances. It's good, you know. But what I did then at that point when I had his number is I just basically started sending all my friends to him who had Apple devices, because I thought it was very funny that he worked for Apple. I just did. I thought it was very funny. I was like, I don't know if that's something you should be so proud of, really. I don't know. And he knew I was making that statement. And it's weird because there was a dynamic going on where I was a meth addict at that time, and he knew it, which is one of the reasons why he didn't want anything to do with me. It was another reason to do with it. But I also stood ground with him, and he realized that I was trolling him on his genius level. You know, I sent him all of my Apple friends, all of them. I was like, okay, maybe if he cuts them a $5 break or something, they might actually be really happy that they solved the problem or something. I was like, what? But no, in the end, he was like, stop sending me these people with Apple phones. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just thought that's a cute story. I thought I would tell it.
I've never understood.
I think Apple phones are very funny.
Other than...
and he knew it too, and it irked him to no end. And it's not like we liked each other, we're friends, but it's just like kind of funny. It irked him to no end that I thought it was hilarious that, because I thought he was kind of a lifer. I think he was an Apple lifer. You know, he was like a little. It was like that was gonna be his fucking smug Denver personality, was the Apple Store dude, and it was just kind of funny to kind of poke fun. So I was like, oh, you're an Apple Store dude. Well, you know, I have a friend, and what I mean by this is I have like 14 friends. And I was like, you know, I have a friend who has an Apple problem. Can I send him to you? And he was like, yeah, you can send him. I'll probably actually make a commission. Yeah, send him to me. And then after the 14th person that I sent that had terrible Apple problems, he was like, stop sending me Apple people. And he was kind of weirded out by it. He thought it was some kind of like statement or something, and it kind of was. It was a statement, and I didn't mean to open his eyes to the product or anything. I just thought it was kind of funny. I actually wanted him to help my friends who had Apple devices, and he couldn't. And I believe that man capable of basically anything, but not fixing those devices, no. Anyways, I have to go pee. I'll be right back, guys. Sorry. all of the people that I sent my Apple friend, they had money. You know, it was like I actually thought he might make money off of it. I was like, yeah, if you're paid commission, you might actually make like quite a bit of money off this, because all these people need help, and they'll pay you. They're not deadbeat druggies or anything like me. Like all my friends, they have money, most of them. And I was like, yeah, like, you know, if you can help them, they'll pay you. They'll pay you, but they need help, and he wasn't able to help any of them. It was insane. At that point, I started saying, don't buy Apple phones. Don't buy Apple phones. I just straight started saying it to people.
Dabbusiness says, is there an agility recipe you can learn that's lower than 8? You receive loot, hops. You loot 31 copper. Moldy Kibble says, you mean the elixir? Moldy Kibble says, elixir of minor agility. Dabbusiness says, yeah.
That's a good elixir.
Dabbusiness says, I was trying to find recipe on the other day and could... Moldy Kibble says, elixir of minor agility is REQ level 2. Dabbusiness says, must have been typing it wrong or something.
This cape has 14 armor, but it's no good compared to what I have. Okay, moving forward, I got half a level so far, and we're about to be full here.
Dabbusiness says, yeah, I'm an alchemist, so I want to make them for myself because I can't afford the 8 agility recipe.
There's like a very... And I always have to preface this because people like to call everything a scam. And I guess it's easy to do. I don't think
it is easy to
this
do.
was ever a scam. No. I think it's just... Obviously, he's taken in investment. He kickstarted the game, put his own money into the game, built a game engine...
And tried.
He's then basically...
But failed horribly.
...on the game engine. And due to that investment, they've made side games. There's like a proof of concept for the engine, I guess, to maybe get in more investment or whatever else, and to put a product out there. And then a bunch of press releases came out where he's talking about like, oh, you know, the engine this, the engine that, we're going to be able to license it out, etc., etc. And of course, the focus doesn't.
Let's go get axes.
MMO, even if maybe he's going to come out and say, oh, the focus is still on the MMO, and maybe he'd say that to me. If I was to bring this up to him, but with you updating this and the MMO being literally 11 years in development, without people shouting from the rooftops, oh, the beta build's amazing now, it's great, we've been testing all this great stuff,
but I'm like 40 levels away from the other agility one that is top 3
trainer. And what is even more odd is that 5 months ago, Camelot Unchained developers spent money to push this game to streamers.
Really?
Which, I'm just going to say, like, from a common sense perspective, right, what are we even doing here? What are we looking at? Why would this be a thing? If Franstein Ragnarok basically exists as a game that requires very little resources and people aren't really taking time away to develop it because all the resources going into the MMO and the engine, why are you sponsoring influencers to play the game? Like, they sponsored Sacriel, Dan's Gaming, and Co Carnage to play this game on stream together. And this happened, if you go March 27th, if you look at the player numbers on the DB for
and I think I bought the level 2 recipe
March 27th,
Moldy Kibble says,
like,
not
look
sure.
at this. It didn't move the dial at all. It was
you
just like a normal day.
Eviscerate, rank 3.
And they paid thousands of
Faint,
dollars
rank
for
1.
this, by the way. Because a streamer
You have
of
learned a new
Co's
ability.
size and Sacriel's size and Dan's Gaming size,
/ start attack non mod shift.
you're not getting this for like a couple grand.
Says, number showed mod shift back
So
out.
it just doesn't make sense to me. What were you promoting here
says,
when you're paying
mod shift
streamers
16
to
blade
play
of
the
cunning.
game? Because it did nothing.
Moldy
Like,
Kibble says,
just
/ start attack mod shift no
the fact is that
Moldy Kibble
nowadays
says,
if a
/ use
game's
mod shift
good
backstab. Sinister
and
strike.
it's just not got eyeballs on it, as soon as
Moldy
you get
Kibble says,
eyeballs
/
on
quick slot no
it,
mod
they're
shift
gonna
16
play, and
Fellblade.
then they're gonna show other people, and they're gonna tell other people, and then it's gonna rise the ranks of the Steam charts and things like that, and people are gonna buy it and they're gonna play it. Surely it's got to dawn on you at this stage that you've paid for 9,172 people to be watching live on Twitch people play this game, and it drove 0 people to play. If this is just like a side project Why are you adding a cash shop to it when nobody plays it and nobody buys it? There's no new players coming in. Why are you putting time into writing these things out, saying like, oh yeah, you can go buy this stuff? Why are you putting money in to streamers to showcase a game that obviously they'd have played that and be like, oh yeah, oh this is cool, logged off and just been like, thank God they paid me for that, because holy shit, that was fucking trash. And that's why nobody played it again, because as you can see, it did nothing. The player base continued to go down, and then they have spikes when, like, I assume these like playtest days where the community must organize like, oh, let's all go on today, 40 people. But it makes it look really bad when you say, oh yeah, all our focus is still on the MMO, and then you're paying people probably, I mean, even for my stream, and it gets like 100 concurrent viewers because I never stream.
Melris Malgan says,
companies would offer you like $500 to play a game for an hour.
High Lord Balver
So I
Dragon has
can't
requested that all
imagine
able
for
body heroes of
somebody
the Alliance meet with him
the
at Stormwind
size of
Keep.
these that get
You just been
multiple
recruited.
thousands
Make.
of viewers
Get
at a
a move on.
time are doing this for any less than like 3, 4, 5 grand each. Maybe they did them a deal so that they could come and play a terrible game, but who fucking knows? But like you can see, there's no interaction on any of these posts. I wonder how many people are in their Discord server for Final Stand Ragnarok. 198 members, 76 online. This game, by the way, released like multiple years ago. 2021 it released, and they've been adding updates to it and nobody's playing it. And this was obviously something again that came up during an announcement on the Camelot Unchained stream where he's like, oh, we've got big exciting news, here's this thing nobody asked for, nobody wants, and nobody's gonna ever play. And then the way that they styled it out was, oh, it's not taking any development resources, it's not used any of your guys' money, which realistically all that money that people paid during the, like, you know, couple $1 million or whatever it was that was given during Kickstarter and then funding on their own website, all that shit's been gone for like a decade. They're obviously running on investor funds, Mark's own money and things like that. So when they say none of your money's gone towards that, of course that's true. That money went fucking years and years ago. That's all gone. But there's just weird things about this. Like, for instance, Mark promised that he'd give refunds to everybody if they were upset with the game still, and the game state in 3 months' time. Just give me 3 months and then I'll refund you if you want it. And then of course he didn't refund everybody, and there's been multiple years now of people saying like, I want my refund that you promised us. And then some people got refunded, some people have been getting the runaround for a long time, at least according to forums like this, where people are saying still waiting 4 years for my refund. There's a refund thread where people post in there and talk about it, which isn't updated all that frequently, to be honest. But some people say that they're still waiting for their money back, which is just like, I personally don't think you should be able to get a refund on this because you donated basically to a Kickstarter. But at the same time, if you turn around and promise people and say, oh, I will give you your money back, at that point you need to be held to that, right? Because you said it, and you said it to generate goodwill. You can't just say something to generate goodwill and then not do it. But you can look at their Twitter when they announced this update on July 18th. The thing gets 5 likes, 6 comments. According to this, there's been no update since January. This was posted a month ago, so maybe this is out of date. And somebody posted they're developing one hell of a UI. It's all we've tested for I don't know how many months.
I think I've got my macros sorted.
At this point, I've convinced myself CU is just going to be Final Stand Ragnarok with a CU-styled UI. And of course, people say during this, and I did see this myself months and months ago, they said Camelot Unchained, the MMO that everyone had been waiting for and everyone put their money towards, will be releasing in 2025, which means they've got a year and a couple months basically before they're out of time on that one. Which, who knows, it's possible. But at the same time, it kind of doesn't make sense, because people have said, oh, the reason there's not any updates coming to the beta that people have got access to is because they're waiting and they're going to put massive updates in there, and then obviously it's going to release next year. But what's the point in having a beta server then if you're not going to have stuff on there for people to test? Because you've been running development that way for like 10 years. So why would you suddenly stop? But this is one of those things, if it wasn't for the fact that they'd pulled in massive sums of investment, which they absolutely have, by the way, they pulled in crazy sums of money from some fairly substantial investment firms in the gaming space. I assume predicated on the engine and not the actual MMO, because who gives a fuck about MMOs from an investment perspective nowadays? But if it wasn't for that, like, people would be thinking that this was completely dead, because the updates are coming to a game nobody cares about. There's not that many updates in the first place. They're paying streamers to play a game that nobody fucking plays. The MMO's seeing no updates on the beta branch, according to social media. And this was posted 10 days ago, 7 months since the last news update. Top comment,
Multi
Mark
says,
Jacobs
RFC
is nothing
drops
more
some
than a
daggers too.
thief and a con man. There's a thread here from 5 days ago. I see the engagement
Multi
in this
says,
subreddit
offhand
maybe
dagger with
once a
1.5
month.
speed.
Jesus Christ, can all of you just let the game and sub die? I keep coming back and I still see people
You
take
receive item,
attention to
pattern,
this. I'm
Murloc scale
also
belt.
this trash.
You receive item,
I
pattern,
still have it in
Murloc
my
scale
heart that this
breastplate.
game will come out, and it
2
will be what we
recipes.
always thought it could be.
Oh, look.
I just listened to
Sweet.
a YouTube video of the
You
old
have learned
loading
how to
screen
create a new
music
item,
DOC,
Murloc
and
scale
that
belt.
hit me right in the dick. I just want to set up a ballista behind a tree in the battlegrounds and snipe people. Post 5 days ago, I'm still waiting for my refund. I am too, or even a reply to my request for a refund. Like, I'm
You have
working on
learned
a
how to
video
create
right
a new
now
item,
that is just
Murloc scale
basically the
breastplate.
full history of MMORPGs on Kickstarter, and it goes through all of them. And of course, Camelot Unchained's in there, but it just goes to show when you actually go through
Rebo says,
line
rare
by
spawn in the
line
fields.
of all the Kickstarters that try to do an MMO, man, it's crazy that not a single fucking one succeeded in any way. There was a few that released, but even those are in like the 10%. Like of Kickstarter MMOs that actually launched and took money from people and got fully funded. There's like 2 that actually launched, and one of them launched like 10 years ago and nobody's ever heard of it. And then there's like Crowfall. I've not finished going through all of them, so maybe I'm forgetting some, but there's some that were outright actual scams. There's some that are just like Chronicles of Illyria, which I'm not going to get into in this video. Star Citizen, if you consider it an MMO, which of course it's not really, but some people do. And then Camelot Unchained. Camelot Unchained is one of the few that's still actually in development. Of all the ones that launched back then, there was a window of like 2012 to like 2014, 2015-ish, where like a dozen Kickstarter MMOs launched. And of all of those, Camelot Unchained is basically the only one that's really still keeping up appearances in any way. But they're not really keeping up appearances if they're not posting news or updates to the beta people are paid for access to that they said would be consistently updated. And then you've just got this like weird fucking Final Stand Ragnarok game that they've invested money into trying to get people to play and get eyeballs on it. And I just have to question why. Like, why is that money being wasted when you should know just off looking at this that the game's not something people would want to play even if they'd seen somebody who was paid to do so, and that's evidence from the fact that that's exactly what happened. Of course, it'll probably be another 6-12 months before we check back in on Camelot Unchained and Final Stand Ragnarok unless something crazy happens. Again, they do have the money to finish this game, as far as I'm aware, because they've had multiple rounds of investment, and the last time they had a round, I think it was announced it was like in the tens of millions of dollars. Which I must say, if that's the case, maybe the engine is fucking amazing, and that means that maybe an MMO will come out one day. But it seems to me that the engine is the core focus, because that's something that even if the MMO fails, the engine still has value, which would make sense from a business perspective, and I couldn't even hold it against them if you're looking at it from like their perspective of, oh, we've invested loads of money into this, at least we want the engine so that we can, you know, have a future with this thing. But at the same time, if that's the case, then what about the people that paid for an MMO? There's obviously always going to be the question of, is that even a core focus anymore? Or is that basically just something that they're going to use to sell the idea that, oh, look at what this engine can do, if they can even get to that stage? They're questions that, of course, the community are going to be asking, but we'll wait and see. We've got a year and a bit, basically, to see whether or not they hold to their 2025 launch window. If this game is their idea of what constitutes as a good, epic, thrilling game that they'd want to release and put money into marketing, put money into a cash shop, and continually develop, I then have zero hope that this game turns out to be good, even with 11 years of development put behind it. Because I did try to play this game when it released, and man, it was fucking awful. It was really not fun. Because if you're releasing something like this, then, you know, I'm never going to have confidence, but there we go. We'll check in again. We'll see what happens in the coming months. I'm sure we'll see some news about this when maybe they get ready to do like a big push and put out a huge patch on the beta or something, or open access it in some way.
Says, anyone near Westfall want to help me get this
yeah,
recipe?
Thanks for watching as always. Check out the links in the video description. Go buy Gamer Subs. You get 10% discount if you want to use my code KiraTV. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Peace.
All right, Balram. Here's me. I'll give you a little tour of this place. Those of you that didn't see Balram before, let me give you a rundown of what's going on. So I'm this fella right here. I got an inventory. I got a bunch of junk in my hands. I'm a wizard. But I do have a Golem Slayer sword. I got some armor that I found in my travels. I have a dog named Backpack. And Backpack kind of goes everywhere with me. I can actually control him if I want to, but Backpack will stick with me. Mostly what I've been doing is kind of doing some of the like little early tutorial kind of quests. But it's time for something more interesting. I think it's time for some more excitement. Here is my map. This is my village up around this way. It's a giant map. I've only ever really been there. And one of the quests that I've got is to go and talk. We talked to Cardu, but we talked to Thurza about this family that went missing. And so we're gonna go do that. Let's go chat with Thurza in the morning. It's kind of dark outside. In the morning, and we're gonna go figure out what's going on.
Ooh,
so let's go sleep until morning. I'm a wizard. That's right. I built up my grandpa's house was all burned down because there was a fire that went off. We don't know what happened with that, but I fixed his house up. There's grandpa right there. We're gonna run over here and go check this out. For those that didn't see this before, a quick sum up of what the game is sort of like a kind of like a Diablo with a lot of like crafting and survival and like ranching and Stardew Valley-ish stuff that goes in there. I'm very thirsty. I gotta drink something. I'm gonna drink a beer. There we go. Where's my stuff? So there's my hydrated and my rest. So I gotta eat a lot of stuff. Let me have an apple. And I'm gonna drink another beer. Where's my water at? Drink some water here. Okay. There we go. Alright, so we're gonna run over here and find what's his face? Thurza. And we'll talk with Cardu again if we need to. I'm not sure. There's Thurza right there. So we kind of have like this, where I compare it with like Stardew, is where like all the townsfolk, they all kind of have their lives, and like the world's ruined and messed up, and there's all kinds of crazy things out there and undead and whatever. The villagers have their sort of their daily routine they go out and run around and do. But mostly it involves us going out and fighting and sort of saving the world. But we start with nothing. We're a nobody. We're sort of slowly working our way up. I just got to the point where I got spells now, and I'm starting to become more than a nobody. I'm starting to become a somebody. Thurza's beautiful. Has a horrible alcoholic husband. I don't know why she's with him. Lately, she seems more anxious than usual. Hey, what about those packs? This is the missing family out there. Thurza, tell me about them. Terrible things are happening. I heard a child's cry when I ran out and saw the flames. I ran for help as fast as I could. They disappeared, not even a corpse. After that smoke faded away, I entered the remains of their home. I haven't told anyone yet, but I found something. Thurza, what'd you find? And why haven't you showed it to anyone? My husband's on a hunt. I'll show him what I found before I show anyone else. He'd really be mad if I showed it to someone before him. The lives of the packs might be in danger. Tell me. Robert will be mad. Thurza. I slap her. No, snap out of it. It's really heavy. There's writing on it, but I can't read it. I think it was written in an ancient language. If it helps, you can have it. Don't tell my husband that I gave it to you. What can it be? I'll show it to my grandpa. He'll know. Okay. Okay. Got some experience. We have a new quest. Chat with grandpa. Okay. I figured today what we do is kind of stick with the main quest and see what's going on. Because early on I was basically just doing tutorial things and sort of running around and kind of getting acquainted with the game. But now, let's go save those kids. Or the family. Pick some mushrooms. And so this is where like the Stardew and the single player Haven and Hearth stuff kind of comes in. You can kind of run around. Of course we can loot stuff. One thing I didn't really mess with was we can like combine things. Every item is combinable with another. So we can combine like a frog poison sack with iron bars. What does it do? Who knows? We can combine salt with beer. Or flour with salt. Can we? Salt and flour. They're not combinable. Okay, maybe we can't do all of everything. Whoops! I just ate a bunch of salt. I guess we'll find things. There's a lot of recipes out in the world we'll find, and so this sort of sandbox thing. Let's go over here and talk to Grandpa. Who's that? There's Wilson. Grandpa. What's going on over here? I can thank Grandpa for so much. Grandpa, I need your help.
Thank you, Nookrim, for the excellent content for my stream. I'd like to sub to your channel. He's a big streamer. Nice. Yeah, it must be a good game. Oh my god. Yeah, you did in fact scare me.
Did I scare you? I apologize.
Yeah, you did.
I apologize for kind of coming in a bit crazy. I'm sorry about that, but serial killers have been around for a long time, and I make videos about things that are bad. A lot of time drama sometimes the CIA. What is all this shit? There's just shit on. Ignore that. Mysteries, conspiracies, all of it. And if you hit the like button and leave me some ideas on what to cover next down below, I'd be very excited. Today we're talking about ancient serial killers. People who were alive before the modern era, before the Industrial Revolution, before killing got way more difficult.
When they presented him with his sack of human body parts, he admitted his identity and confessed to 544 murders.
544?
24 pregnant women.
Because let's be real, guys. It's pretty hard to kill somebody and get away with it now.
Last year, only 51% of homicides were solved. That's according to the national clearance rate. This means at least one suspect was arrested and charged.
The average person in BC was a serial killer. Have you ever read the Bible? Have you ever? I mean, come on. Let's figure it out. You guys will probably look at the length of this video and think, you probably got a lot of serial killers in this. No, we didn't get that many, honestly. There's a lot more. There's a lot more. If we got every single serial killer throughout recorded history, people who killed 1,000 people, this video would be 10 hours long. It's crazy. Seems like people have been pieces of shit for a very long time. Nothing has changed over the last 2,000 years, except for it just has gotten harder to be a successful, prolific serial killer. I just alluded that I was a serial killer. I'm not a serial killer, but I am a, yeah, I don't know. I'm just a normal guy, to be honest. I'm pretty regular. Our first killer takes us to the Western Han, which is now known as China. Liu Pingli was born to Liu Wu, Prince of Liang. He was the grandson of Emperor Wen and nephew to Emperor Jing. His father was extremely powerful and wealthy, and when he died in 144 BC, he divided his kingdom amongst his sons, meaning Liu Ping received some of that kingdom. Upon receiving land in Jidong for his kingdom and some subjects for him to rule over, Pingli went on a 30-year tirade harassing and killing his people. This guy was a jerk.
They would kill innocent people from villages and seize their belongings for the sheer sport and for no reason at all.
It's important to note that he was seen as arrogant and uncouth before his rule, but never committed any crimes while he wasn't a ruler. Probably because he didn't have any power. He was just an asshole. And when he finally got power, he made sure to abuse it. I mean, this guy, look at this son of a... I do not like this guy at all. He murdered and killed so many people. It's not even funny. I mean, it's been a while, so it's not like too soon or anything, but at the same time, messed up. Pingli recruited a small army, a gang, if you will, of 20 or 30 men who agreed with his way of thinking, and they would go out at night and choose random houses to loot and then kill the people inside. And it got so bad that people would have to board up their doors and windows like they're playing COD Zombies.
I like the way the bloody mist feels against my skin.
But instead of Richtofen, it's Liu Pingli, the king. What? That's unbelievable. They would hope and pray that the king wouldn't break in their house and kill them. After years of tormenting his people, his cousin Emperor Wu received a letter from the people of Jidong describing the horrible acts that Pingli had been committing, and upon hearing this, he launched an investigation into the claims and found that Pingli had murdered over 100 people for just fun. According to Sima Qian, a Chinese historian, he described Pingli's activities as murdering people and seizing their belongings for sheer sport. This guy, once again, dickhead. Liu Pingli's punishment was being stripped of his nobility and banished to live among the peasants in the region of Shangyang. Some believe Pingli was framed, but there is no evidence to prove that. Quite honestly, who cares? I mean, it was a long time ago. That was way back in 144 BC in ancient Han, which is like pre-China. It's pretty cool. A lot of people don't really know what's going on and what went on in China in
China's badass.
In the before the years of our Lord type era, you know? What were they doing over there? What was even happening over there, all right? All I know about them is them 12 tribes and whatnots, and them Hellenistic folks. The next ancient killer is once again a ruler of a kingdom. This is going to be a bit of a theme, guys. However, instead of killing their subjects, they killed their spouses. Queen Anula of Anuradhapura, definitely not saying that shit right, was the first queen to rule Sri Lanka from 47 BC to 42 BC, and she rose to power by marrying King Chornaga, and he ruled for 12 years before she poisoned him. It is said that she favored a palace guard named Kudatissa, son of the king before Chornaga. And at the time of his rule, Kuta was a child king under Anula's control. She was like queen regent, I guess that's what that called. I learned that shit from Game of Thrones. Yeah, that's queen regent, Game of Thrones, based, red pilled. After about 3 years of ruling the kingdom, she poisoned him as well and moved on to a different palace guard named Sevilla. And as you can imagine, he didn't rule for very long before he was also poisoned and killed by her. She was insane. Eventually, no more palace guards would get with Anula, so she moved to marrying commoner. One was Vatuka, a carpenter, and another was Darubathika Tissa, a wood carrier. Guy's job was literally to carry wood. I bet he was strong as shit. That's crazy. She also married a palace priest named Nilia, and she would go on to poison all three of them and then declare herself the ruler of the kingdom. Once again, a crazy, insane, lunatic person. Why'd she marry so many random people? I don't know how kingdoms work in Sri Lanka. Queen Cersei's reign of terror, Anula's reign of terror would come to an end when the brother of Kutatissa, Kutakana Tissa, went to the palace with an army and burned it down with her inside. Mother of Dragon style. I mean, what is this? Is this just Game of Thrones? Is that where they got this shit at? There's no incest. I mean, wouldn't be surprised. During her rule and shortly after his brother's death, Kuta fled the kingdom and created an army strong enough to surround the palace and burn it down to the ground. And after her death, Kuta became king and ruled the kingdoms for 3 decades. I'm not entirely clear on Anula's motives. Right? If she wanted to rule the kingdom, she had multiple chances to do so. She could have poisoned her first husband and then become queen, but her lust for killing and marrying random people led to the deaths of numerous kings and random people, I don't know, very strange, bizarre behavior. Classic Sri Lankan royalty moment. Following Anula is another famous poisoner, Locusta. She was actually a poison maker who worked for Agrippina the Younger, wife of Claudius and mother to the infamous emperor of Rome, Nero. You've probably heard of him, whom Locusta also worked for. That's our poisoning here. By 54 AD, Locusta was already notorious for her poisoning and imprisoned for poisoning people around Rome. She was quite a prolific poisoner. Agrippina the Younger came to Locusta and asked her to make poison for her husband Claudius, and she gave Agrippina a mushroom with poison sprinkled on it. It was given to Claudius's food tester, Halidas, and was ineffective. Eventually, Claudius' doctor Gaius Tertinius Xenophon poisoned Claudius by shoving a poisoned feather into his throat. And this was to induce vomiting, because people love to eat and then throw up in ancient Rome. It was a very Hunger Games type thing. So Locusta failed. Eventually, the doctor succeeded. She remained in prison after failing to poison Claudius. However, it wouldn't be long before she was called upon again, this time by Agrippina's son, Nero. Claudius died. Claudius was like the adoptive father of Nero, and Agrippina married Claudius after Claudius' father died. So, yeah, after Claudius' death, Nero came to rule Rome, and there was one thing that threatened Nero's rule, and that was Claudius's other son, Britannicus. Ever heard of him? So in 55 CE, Nero asked Locusta to create a poison to kill Britannicus. The first attempt on his life failed because the poison was slow to work, and Nero would personally punish Locusta in prison by flogging her himself and threatening to kill her. What a bunch of weirdos. But after the beating, she would produce a better poison and it would work, and Britannicus would succumb. And this was the day before his 14th birthday. Very Game of Thronesy. Nero, I mean, this is basically going down the list of inspiration of rulers for Game of Thrones, the most prolific serial killers of all time.
33 copper.
That was cool. Look at that fucking purple bolt.
Delicious water. Take a water break. It's been a couple minutes in this video. Take a water break. Go drink some water for a minute, all right? Hi, if you're watching on the TV, I'm gonna pop out and do 3D. Whoa, wow, God, it's IMAX. Back into it. Nero would reward Locusta by releasing her from prison and giving her a country estate.
Flask of oil.
That's pretty baller. However, when Nero fled Rome in 68 CE, the next emperor, Galba, would lead her through the city in chains and then publicly execute her. Game of Thrones, once again. So far, of all the killers we have covered, they've been well-known rulers, or in some way, they've been associated with the government. And that's pretty much the only reason that their stories were written down. Otherwise, they would just be forgotten to history. Because, in my opinion, you go down the street in, let's say the Kazakh region, okay? Let's say the Kazakhs in 7th century AD, okay? You talk to a guy with a family and he's like maybe 45, he's killed 5 or 6 people. In my opinion, you talk to a random man in the Caucasus, probably killed 5 or 6 people. You talk to the average, maybe not farmers or people around kind of larger cities, I feel like they're probably more they're probably more yeller. That's what we call them in the country. Them yeller folk? No, not like that. Them, yellow in the belly. Cowards. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Country people back then, 5, 6 murders, at least, throughout their lives. You get in a disagreement, you kill somebody. I tell you what. And you go back before the Common Era, I mean, people were killing everybody. Everybody was just getting murdered. It's insane. I miss those days. That's why whenever people romanticize the past, I scoff and I balk at them. I go, you're an idiot. I would murder you if I was in the past. I would be a murderer, for sure, if it was in the past. I get so angry sometimes. Sometimes I just see red. Imagine you see red and you have a club in your hand and there's a hairy guy in front of you who hasn't washed in 8 days and he smells like shit. Now, we have one more early serial killer. These are all kind of in the early category, and the identity of this killer is not actually known. So it's sort of different from the others in this part of the list. All that we know is what they did and where they did it. The Abbasid Caliphate was the 3rd caliphate to follow the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Its central government was stationed in Kufa, 110 miles south of Baghdad, Iraq, in 871 CE, in the city of Kark, a neighborhood in the city of Baghdad, which that's what it is now. A man was found to be strangling numerous women and then burying their bodies in his house. After this was discovered, he was dragged to a square where he received 2,000 lashings and 400 hits to his feet with a bastonado, which is a wooden stick. And after his beating, he was still breathing, so they beat his testicles with wooden floggers until he presumably died from shock due to the immense pain and torture he endured. His body was then burned and left to rot in the town square. I mean, that's crazy, dude. Deserved it, though. I feel like that's probably why there's not that many serial killers, just because that happened to them. You got caught killing random women and stuff, you're dead, bro. You don't get thrown in a jail cell to rot. You get killed slowly with sticks and somehow your balls. Like, you know how many hits to your balls it would take to die? I feel like a shit ton. What are you barking at? Stop. Shoo. All this talk of horrible, evil people is making me hungry for candy. If only I had a candy brand. Sour Boys Sour Candy. 52 weeks, 52 flavors. Look at all these flavors we got. They're really good. Go to sour.gg, buy some sour candy. It's sour licorice. We also have sour gummies called Little Guys. Same brand though. Use code JUSTICE for 20% off your order for this video. I'm gonna go ahead and make it right now. Let's do code BIG JUSTICE. Boom! 20% off, 200 uses. There you go, guys. Code BIG JUSTICE. Boom! So go to sour.gg and support the channel today, my friends. Thank you, Frankie. She's chiming in for the last little moment here. Good girl. So far, in all of the instances we've covered, the killers have gotten what they deserve. And ancient killers may be far in the past, but that doesn't mean that people stopped killing, my friends. Let's move on a little bit. The next killers lurked in a more developed society and enjoyed more modern technologies in the Middle Ages. Just kidding, by the way. That's not true. Rome was more advanced than the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages sucked. I love Rome. I'm very pro-Rome.
Me too.
I'm Sicilian. I'm 13%
I'm pro-Greek.
Sicilian. You couldn't tell by my Cro-Magnon.
Yeah, I know. I knew I had kind of a magnetism to him. Like, yeah, but I'm like 50% Sicilian. I've got a very Sicilian family with a very Sicilian name, considered to be royal in Sicily. I can't say it without outing myself, but for instance, my half brother was, I don't know, 17 years older than me or something like that. and he married my Omer, which was an Italian maid. I'm sorry, an Italian nursemaid. An Italian nursemaid is an Omer, I believe. Yes, and she married my half brother, and they had a kid, and they're both dead now. She's alive, but they're both dead now because they have both of them died of aneurysm, which is something that terrifies me too. And my father went out, but we don't know what happened to him. We don't know what killed him, but my father went out and he died in like South America, and we don't know what he had because it was a different country. We don't know what happened really. It was kind of crazy, and but it was natural causes. It was like an embolism, I believe. It wasn't an aneurysm. It was an embolism, I believe. And yeah, I think it was an embolism, yeah. And the reason we found out later, the Omer told us why she went after my half brother. It was because my mother's maiden name. When she found out what my half brother's maiden name was, not maiden name, but when she found out what the maiden name was,
Cheryl has reached level 60.
In our family, she immediately wanted to marry into our family, which was crazy, but it is true, and that's the kind of respect apparently my mother's maiden name respects, like commands in Italy. And I'm not kidding when I say I'm like 50% Sicilian. My mother's family is from Omaha, Nebraska, but not originally. And they moved there, and but they lived there for like 50 years, and then eventually passed away. And that was my grandparents on my mother's side, and they were lower class Italians from New York who changed their last name to something else so they could appear more middle class. But but the original maiden name is insane, and it commands respect in fellow Sicilians, which is insane. And we saw it once when my half brother landed like this beautiful Italian lady, who just was like completely enamored with his name. Not his life or his reality or anything, just his name. And then I grew up playing with their son, who was my cousin, and he passed away very young. He was 33, and I was 38, I think, something like that. When I was 38, I found out that my half brother died when I was younger too. When I was like 28, my half brother died, and then 5 years later, his son died of the same thing. They had a genetic predisposition for aneurysm, and they both died of aneurysm. It was terrible. And so that's my father's other son. And so we were very, very worried it might happen to me. But I know that I don't have the kind of stress that both of them had in their lives. And I don't worry about it, but I know that any day I'll live my life like it. I have lived my life like it since I was 28. I've lived my life like I could go out at any given time due to an embolism or an aneurysm, which is why I always do exactly whatever
has reached level 60.
Whatever the fuck I want to do. I always do whatever I want to do. I don't care. Life's too short. I say it to people all the time. I'm like, life is too short. And I mean it too, because I could just snuff out in any given goddamn moment. Plus, I also have severe apnea. Well, not severe, but I would say I have sleep apnea where my oxygen level in my bloodstream will go below 90% because I just stop breathing when I'm sleeping. and they had me on a CPAP machine for that, and that has something to do with having sucked in my gut all my life. I do it when I'm sleeping. Even when I'm sleeping, I suck in my gut because I've always been slightly pudgy, just not, I wouldn't say fat, but slightly pudgy, you know. And it's kind of annoying, and so I suck in my gut even when I'm sleeping. And the doctor, that I told the doctor, they were like, we can't confirm that. No doctor will ever confirm that. But they're like, if you fear that happening, then we need to help you. And you're losing oxygen while you sleep anyways. You're not sleeping properly. They found this out when I went in for I got COVID.
Arcane Banana says, World Bus on
And when I got COVID, I got hospital-induced pneumonia. And when I got hospital-induced pneumonia, I was in the hospital for 3 days or something like that. And they noticed that I was stopping to sleep for about 10% of the time. They were like, "You are not breathing all the time when you sleep." And I was like, "Really?" And they were like, "Yeah, you are not sleeping right." And so they were like, "These sleeping pills are good and they're helping you." Oh, thank you. Like, these sleeping pills are good and they're helping you, but they're also like, they're like, you also stop sleeping when you're breathing. You need to wear a CPAP machine, and they're like, this isn't because part of it is because you got bigger. But mainly you just stop sleeping. You stop breathing when you're sleeping. It's weird because I have had I terrified an ex-girlfriend with it.
31 copper.
She was like slapping me and stuff and being like, wake up, you're not breathing. She was like, I was listening to you breathe. I was just like lying here awake listening to you breathe because I like listening to you breathe. And she was like, you stopped breathing for a long time. You stopped breathing for like 2 whole minutes. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, you stopped breathing. I thought you were dead. And I was like, well, I'm extremely high on heroin, but I can't tell her that, you know. And it probably slowed my heart so bad that she can't hear it. And I'm not breathing, basically. But no, it turned out that I've got some fucking weird, mental disorder or something. Excuse me, where if I'm sleeping, like, I'll stop breathing. And it sucks. It's not the normal kind of fat person's problem. It's a mental issue where because I don't breathe much. I don't breathe that much, you know? I just don't. You can hear it now. I breathe, but I don't breathe that much. And it's annoying. And I control my lungs very well. And this control happens when I'm sleeping and it damn near kills me. And so if I ever disappear, that'll be why. I'm just warning you guys. Not that it'll ever happen, I don't think. I think I'm probably good. And I've lost the weight. When they gave me a CPAP machine, I was 380 pounds. I'm 272. I lost the weight. I lost the 110 pounds necessary to get out of a situation like that, which is good.
Trog face. No offense to any Sicilians out there, but I have my grandfather's face shape, and he is a Sicilian
me too.
man.
Got
His
the
father
same
was named
goatee.
Augustus. That's pretty cool. The medieval times was a period of time marked by savagery on both sides of the law. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Braveheart, but it's a real heartstring tugger, I've got to say. There was bad people in the medieval times on both sides as well, and if you weren't a massive, total idiot, getting away with murder wasn't exactly that difficult. The consideration of forensics and investigating was still hundreds of years away at this time, obviously, and to deter criminality, people who would commit crimes needed to fear what would happen to them if they were caught. So they would do things like, cut your hand off if you stole a carrot, or chop off your penis if you gave someone syphilis. I don't know what they would do, but I know they would chop off hands for carrots. I do know that. That's true. They called me Carrot Boy when I was a kid. I know things about carrots. If you were a killer in these times, your punishment could be anything terrible under the sun, and it pretty much always ended in you being sent to whatever gods or devils you feared. This fellow named Peter Nears comes to mind when I'm talking about serial killers in the medieval times. Peter Nears is a man who is regarded as a monster in any era of human history, not just the medieval times. He's got heavy Borderlands bandit, psycho bandit. He was considered...
I think I want to reinstall Borderlands 2 and take another swing at the sensitivity. And I might even change it. I could change it. I realized, well, no, I can't change it, but I want to take another look at... Oh, am I full? Oops. Am I full? No, I'm not full. I just got here. Yeah. I'm gonna download Borderlands 2. I have Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Actually, that's a better game. Tiny Tina Wonderlands is a better game than Borderlands 2. I go to my library and take a look. Yeah, as to Borderlands titles, because Borderlands 4 is coming. I love Borderlands. Yeah, and I have 36 hours on there and 51 hours on this one. This is a compact game, but it's a good game if you mute the voices. Yeah, install. It will revisit.
The capacitor is empty.
Oops. That's good.
Believed him to be a powerful black magician with supernatural abilities, and he was active during the 16th century for between 11 to 15 years and became something of a legend to some and the actual boogeyman to others after killing over 500 people. If it's a crime you can think of, he did it. And he did it well. Theft, torture, murder, infanticide, cannibalism. At one point, Peter had been captured, but somehow he managed to Houdini his way out of that situation and escape, which elevated his already legendary status even further. He was so ruthless and efficient at both murder and evading capture that it was believed that he made a pact with the devil himself to obtain supernatural abilities that aided him in his reign of terror and evil. And this is where his crimes of infanticide come into play. Of his 544 victims, 24 of them were pregnant women that he killed for their fetuses alone. And this act of cannibalism and ritualization would give him various supernatural powers, like shape-shifting into inanimate objects like stones, logs, and any animal form at will. He could become invisible. He could become completely silent, which would allow him to break into people's homes at night without waking them. And then, now, Peter kind of had a bit of a cult going on too. He wasn't alone in his crimes. He was joined by 25 to 50 men who joined him in the killings, robberies, and satanic rituals. He could be considered truly a cult leader by today's standards, and these men also supposedly bonded themselves with Satan through Peter and through their rituals. Though these losers were not granted the same supernatural gifts as their leader. Obviously, he's a cult of personality. He's the guy. He's the I don't know, dude. In all actuality, rather than being an unholy devil-powered shape-shifting warlock dickhead, he was just a demented man who found a group of like-minded demented degenerates, and they became a gang of bandits that just waited in the forests and hills outside of towns for unsuspecting folks to rob, murder, and torture and brutalize. The disturbing brutality and insanity of his killings and pattern of horrifying behavior propelled him into a legendary status. Peter, the legend black magician, asshole. This legendary status and fear of Peter became a tool, as the law didn't necessarily want to confront him. Who would want to confront someone or put themselves in the path of someone who is rumored to have supernatural abilities and eats babies and who has made a deal with the devil? Who the would want to do that? I certainly wouldn't. I would now. I would shoot him in the head with an AR-15. Actually, I have one. I'll go get it. It's not real. It's an airsoft gun. Don't worry. But if Peter was real, I would get him with this, I think.
Fucking man children and their fucking toys.
I would get him, or I would try at least. I would definitely try. Yeah, Peter, you see that? This guy wasn't just a ruthless degenerate. He was also a brilliant mass murderer. Brilliant, used very loosely. Not good brilliant, but like, he was really smart and really good at it. He was really, really good at it. He paid a lot of attention to the people from the areas he terrorized. He became a master of disguise, a chameleon, able to change his appearance, mannerisms, and potentially his accent. This would allow him to seamlessly blend into crowds like a character from Assassin's Creed, and then just...
Let's have a look.
I mean, he was terrible. Like, I didn't know about him before the research for this video, and it's surprising. It really is surprising. It's a surprising thing to learn about this
Arcane Banana
evil
says,
guy.
World Buff Sonic
This
resets in 1 minute. Layer 1.
fucking asshole from ancient times. I can see why he was such a legend to the people that he terrorized. During a time of fear, starvation, murder, robbery, and disease, it's pretty easy to add a super-powered black magician to the list of potential dangers and just be like, all right, well, I'm gonna live in my small wooden hole, and I'm gonna hope that my wife doesn't die during childbirth and that the winter won't come and kill us all. Plague across the sea will infect my 7-year-old. He is my only living son. I've had 75 kids. He's the only one who survived. He's the oldest. 7. He's 7. He's the oldest. All the others didn't make it. Poor taste in jokes aside, it seems like when people...
You are my child bride. I am your father groom. You are my child bride. The whitest kids you know are so funny. Oh, yeah. I'll give you everything. You just can't leave your room. You are my child bride. I am your father groom. Such wonderful medieval oldies as you are my child bride. I am your father groom. God, the whitest kids you know was like actually so good.
People are struggling to
I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna go get that show and I'm gonna watch it.
live, and you know, times are tough. Back in the medieval times,
You
it's really
are
easy.
my child bride. I am your father groom. So fucked up. This is the most fucked up thing I'd ever seen on television.
Turn themselves into a log or a cat instead of just altering their appearance to just simply look like someone else. It's very, very low on the list of things. Rationality, that is. Neil's disguises were not just about evasion.
Oh, hey, Charlie, what? Hey, what's that you got there? What's in that jug? Oh, it's a jug of PCP. It's a jug of PCP. Yeah, it's a jug of PCP. I just drank a bunch of it. A jug of PCP. Yeah, a jug of PCP. And I just did a whole bunch of bad stuff, and the cops are chasing me. It's a jug of PCP. Yeah, it's a jug of PCP. Fucking whitest kids you know. It's so fucking funny.
Also, manipulation tools. He often posed as a trustworthy person to lure his victims into a false sense of security, and Niels knew how to use his personas to get close to those he intended to harm. His victims. They believed that they were dealing with an honest man, and they would let down their guard, never realizing that they were in danger until it was too late. However, one thing about his disguises never changed. He would always carry with him 2 pistols, a broadsword, and money.
Because you need to quickly pull and kill anybody who steps to you. You duel somebody honorably if they've got a legitimate complaint with you, but you'll still duel them. Understand? You got a complaint with me, I'll duel with you. I'll duel you fucking legitimately. I've always been willing to do it, and this never happened because I don't have any legitimate complaints. People don't have any legitimate complaints with me. And and then the last thing I know because I would do the same thing if I ever was like this sort of despot or whatever. I would do the exact same thing. I would carry 2 pistols, a fucking sword, and where I would demand satisfaction if it was a legitimate person that I wronged or whatever, that I couldn't just cap, right? Any bad actor I just cap and I tell the cops that they were fucking with me and it's a bad actor, right? A good actor that I wronged, you duel with the sword. and then the money is to get out of anything else that the duel. And this is such a funny way to live. The money is how do you get out of anything else, right? If you can't get out of it by straight capping the bad actor, it's actually so funny. It's actually how a pirate would think. You cap the bad actor, you duel the good actor, and you pay anybody else who won't let you cap them or duel them. Like a cop that's puts you in a fucking prison or something like that, and you carry money to bribe the cop that you don't want to blaster duel, right? And in those 3 ways, this is how you actually be a pirate. Fuck Jack Sparrow. I can't stand Jack Sparrow. I mean, I love the performance, I'm sorry, but fuck Jack Sparrow, because most of the time that's what a real pirate would be doing, is talking about stuff like that, right? And if you ever been on the streets and been a drug dealer or something like that, you would understand it's the pistol for the bad actors, the sword for the good actors, and the money to bribe the pigs. And honestly, if you're like, yeah, look, okay, you can take me to jail right now for possession and maybe distribution, or this time tomorrow I could just pay you $100,000. You can just tear the ticket up. And sure, you want to put me in the system, you put me in the system, or you can take the $100,000. Right? And it's okay. You go ahead. You write the ticket. If you need, you're the police officer. It's up to you. If you feel like you can't take the money, then don't take the money. I'm not trying to say you're a bad person. I'm just offering to you. If you rip up the ticket, I'll pay you $100,000. And they either take the money that you don't even have right there, but they know you're rich or you wouldn't be making the goddamn offer, and they have to sit and think about that. They're like, shit, I could probably put it on. I could probably put it under the mattress, and my son bothers me for $140 cash a month, but now that $1,200 doesn't seem like shit. I can just always give him $120 cash a month, and quite proudly so. And the cop's thinking this. He's like, oh my god, the $100,000 might actually really be good, and it's not like I'm gonna buy anything. It just makes it so all of our problems go away, right? A good cop thinks of it like, not a good cop, but a smart person, a smart cop thinks of it like, this isn't something I can buy anything with, but it makes all of my problems essentially go away because I'm not destitute and I don't have to worry about how to pay the bills anymore. I just pay the bills. And that's, and that's how you look at $100,000, and that's how you get out of like being busted for being a drug dealer or something like that. I've never had to do it, and I've never had $100,000. But I'm just saying, if you're a drug dealer, you might consider saying, I'll pay you $100,000 to drop the ticket, and because the cop's like, well, shit, I was actually just agonizing over the ulcer that the 2 days of paperwork was going to be. You want to pay me $100,000 to go away? Well, yeah, sure. You didn't rape or murder anybody. You're just a drug dealer, right? No, and I don't. And everybody that I sell to, fucking is a really voluntary person. It's not like I could go down there and sling to kids or something. They knock down my door, right? I'm just a drug dealer, and so the cop's like, "Yep, all right, I'll take the $100,000," and it's like, "All right, well, rip up the ticket, let me go. My peeps will show tomorrow. You go to blah blah. We're gonna dead drop to you $100,000." You're gonna leave me the fuck alone, and if anybody else in your precinct bothers me, tell them to fucking refer to you or whatever. And this is how we get corruption in police, and it happens all the fucking time. Now, I've never done it, but
tax. That's
what the money thing is for. At the end, there's 3 things that you need. You need the pistols for the bad actors, so you can just cap them before they cap you. And then you tell the police, this man came to kill me, and so I capped him, whatever. And then you need the sword to defend yourself against the legitimate people who have a legitimate complaint with you. And then you need the money for the cops.
And people who survived and offered descriptions were able to begin to 2 pistols, a broadsword, and money. Because of these commonalities among attacks, people began to know what to look for, and people who survived and offered descriptions were able to close the net even further. He was described as a rather old man with crooked fingers and a scar on his chin. He was eventually caught whilst trying to take a bath at a lodge in Newmarket called the Bells. The details of his general appearance had become widespread knowledge due to the legend of Peter.
I have a meth cook friend, and he's very good at it too, and he's very smart. He's one of the more smarter men I've ever met. That's all I'm gonna say. And that man lived a life life like this sans the murder, or at least any murder that I know about. Anyways, like my friend did not murder anybody. I don't think he has that in his soul. I really don't. He's one of the more harmless men I've ever met, but he's also the most hardcore, scary, meth cook, terrible person I've ever met too. It's quite a crazy dichotomy. And yeah, that guy, he would live a life like this. He does live a life like this. Women throw themselves at him. He can walk out of anything, most things, like even jail and stuff. It's kind of crazy. He lives a life like this. He's a crazy meth kingpin
That's 14
cook.
hours ahead of me.
And I don't know why. But yeah, he's also old. He did it all of his life since the 70s. He's done it. He's done it successfully. If you take the jail periods out, that kind of
am I supposed to get those mechanical riches out of my fields?
Inevitably kind of catch jail time doing it. That's why I stopped talking to him. Is he caught jail time? But like overall. He was like a successful goddamn drug dealer from like 1976 until 2020 something, 2019 something, 50 years. That guy lived a life like this, kind of. I think he would be the sort of type to have, pistols, sword, or money, one of the three, and the government doesn't really enter into it for him because he lives outside the law all the time.
Says, LMAO, what do you do for work?
Was recognized, and people from the town pressured the innkeeper to open his leather pouch, and they found it full of fetuses and dried hearts. Allegedly. I don't know why you would carry that around, but I don't know. That's very strange. When Peter was apprehended for the second time in 1581, they were sure to not let him escape again. The capture of Peter was obviously celebrated as a monumental victory of justice. The people at the time, they wanted a little bit more. They believed that a man as evil as Nero deserved more than a swift death. He needed to be made an example of. Thus, they began a prolonged and excruciating process of torture designed to punish him for his unspeakable acts. Punishments for criminals were already incredibly inhumane and would never be allowed in modern society. Just in general, people would be prodded with red-hot metal bars, branded, boiled alive, or worse, and these were just common occurrences in everyday life. Our old boy Peter was subjected to 3 days of excruciating torture, potentially worse than what was normally reserved for the worst criminals as discussed, and the town exacted justice, which was more like revenge, it seems like, for what Peter had done over the course of a decade. And on the first day of Peter's torture, he had strips of his flesh skinned from his body with hot oil poured into the wounds. On the second day, Peter was held above burning coals with his feet greased, essentially roasting him alive like a chicken. And on the third, final day, it was worse than the first two. He was strapped to a breaking wheel. Here is a breaking wheel. If you don't know what that is, it is a device used for capital punishment reserved for the most hated criminals, and it always killed its victims very slowly. Very, very slowly. Someone subjected to a breaking wheel is tied to the spokes, and while the wheel is slowly turned, the torturer hits the victim with a hammer or some kind of heavy object that will easily break the victim's bones. And once their bones are broken, they are left on the wheel to die. Sometimes the wheel would be placed on a tall pole so birds could feed on the person while they were still there. Wow. The old book on torture, eh? That's crazy. That's crazy. Let's go band for band on who has the worst torture methods. To be fair as well, I know a lot of people are probably like, oh, it's not the medieval times, 1580. Yeah, I understand. It's the Renaissance. I get it. Just kind of wanted to put this guy in with the medieval people because it's right on the precipice. He was kind of born just at the end of the Middle Ages, the medieval times. I don't really know, dude. It seemed pretty medieval to me. Anyways, back to the breaking wheel. For Peter, the breaking wheel wasn't enough. He would receive 42 bone-breaking hits, and when that still did not kill him, his executioner quartered him by sawing his limbs from his body. And, that's crazy. It was during this period of torture and his extended execution that Peter Nears admitted to 544 murders, powered or some kind of transformed essence. Whether or not these people came to these beliefs on their own or by trying to rationalize the brutality of killings, or from these killers believing themselves to be special or transformed and telling the world about their devil-given gifts, we are not exactly sure. But one book from 1612 called Tableau de Inconstantie des Mauvais Anges et Demons. Tableau de Inconstantie des Mauvais Anges et Demons. Something like that. I don't know, I ain't French or whatever. It translates to Painting the Inconstancy of Evil Angels and Demons by Pierre de Lancry, or whatever. I don't know how to say his name. It tells many stories about mentally ill people who believe themselves to be witches, demons, or other creatures of legend doing unspeakable.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm an evil entity. I think I'm a being of light. I think I'm a being of light, and I was put here to do something really amazing, but I don't know what it is. It's crazy, but I do believe that. It is true. I would call myself a generator. I'm here to generate. I'm here to generate energy for people all day long. I don't know. I would say that's about as accurate, or sorry, as specific as I could be.
Translated into English by Gurlid Schultz Williams in 2006, calling it On the Inconstancy of Witches. Book 4 in the translation on page 254 is titled On the Inconstancy of Demons, and it specifies lycanthropy and the transformation of man into wolves. This is where the story of John Grenier is told. Person we're talking about. Pierre de Lancry wrote this from his own experience as he was involved in Jean Grenier's trial. In the areas surrounding Bordeaux, France, there had been reports of attacks from wild animals. One was in the small village of Paulo, where a young girl named Margaret Poyer was attacked in broad daylight by what appeared to be a wolf, but managed to fight it off with a stick. A young boy, aged 13 or 14 years old, named Jean Grenier, would claim responsibility for this attack, saying that if she hadn't fought him off with a stick, he would have eaten her, just as he had done with other young boys and girls. That's suspicious. Margaret and Jean had tended livestock together, and she'd heard that he could change into a wolf whenever he wanted, and that he had taken and killed dogs before to eat bits of meat and drink their blood, though he'd believed that it was not as good as blood from children. Another girl, Jean Gaboret, would testify that other Jean had a history of being creepy towards girls. At one point, he'd approached her and some other girls who were tending to the